and welcome back to Salmon's Pizzeria. It's the return of the Championship Penitentiary for yet another season. We are back for more competitive football that, well, isn't the World Cup considering how terribly that went. And of course, I am once again joined by the ever so reliable crew here. Starting off with yourself, Kieran Ashton. How are you, Kieran?
Yeah, man. Absolutely delighted to be back. Another season of, hopefully not pain, misery, and hopefully, a successful season for Thistle. Hopefully it ends in promotion finally after all these years. But nonetheless, delighted to be back on and, excited for the season ahead.
And of course, we are joined by Enzo. How are you, Enzo?
Yeah, I'm good. I've enjoyed the fact that the weather's been phenomenal for the past couple of months, although it's been pissing it down with rain for maybe a day or two now. So kind of snap back to reality just in time for the real football to begin. I enjoyed the World Cup, right? But it just doesn't do it. I mean, it's I know this is a ridiculous thing to say, but it doesn't. Watching even Scotland at the World Cup or the World Cup final between Spain and Argentina, whatever it might be, doesn't do it the same way as going to watch Livingston versus Queen's Park Will on Saturday. And I know that means that there's something wrong with me, but that's just the reality of the situation. So I am buzzing.
It very much is that sort of thing. It's like I went to. It's like the first game I went to this season was Hamilton friendly, and it just sort of felt like football was back. It's just different going to the game versus sat watching on TV, and it's. I mean, obviously, unless you went to the World Cup, then feelings are a bit different. But yes, it is, of course, the return of the Scottish Championship. And with that, this podcast will be doing our typical pre-season predictions and preview that whole sort of stuff. And as usual, we will start off in alphabetical order, going through all the teams, and then at the end, we'll give out our what we predict the table will look like at the end of the season. So with that, we're going to start off with our Arbroath. Arbroath, of course, finished in third last season, and with that, they were in the playoffs. Their outgoings have been Harry Cochrane, who's joined Greenock Morton. There's Victor Enham, Dapo Mabude, Aaron Muirhead, Ali Spalding, Jack Wilkie, Lewis Gilly, who went back to Hibs on loan. Luke Kenny went back to St Mirren. Tom Lang went back to Falkirk. Jacob McIntyre went back to Hibs. Finlay Marshall went back to Aberdeen. Aidan Nisbet went back to Falkirk. And Ross Callaghan has retired. That was only pretty recently. I think it got announced last week. I want to say it got announced. But yeah, it's weird considering that he's retired because, well, I watched him like pretty early on in his career at Raith Rovers because that's where he came through. So, a bit weird to see that one. I think it's a sign that I am getting old. I'm 26 in 3 days. I know I'm just properly getting old here. But the incomings, meanwhile, Calvin Beattie from Dundee United, Sean Mackey from Falkirk, Scott McGill from Sinnersmuir, Michael McKenna from East Fife, Stuart Morrison from Forfar, Brodie Patterson from Kelty, Andy Winter from Livingston, and then on loan they've got Scott Constable and Cormac Daly. Should clarify all of these transfers are updated as of 29th of July, so the day of this recording. For Arbroath, whilst they were definitely the big overachievers this season, I have my doubts that they will replicate any of that. They do have a tendency when they do have these seasons to just fall back a fair bit. But their big miss will definitely be Finlay Marshall. He was instrumental in their attack last season, especially in the first half when they were towards that top end. I think we were getting to about Christmas, and you had Partick and St Johnstone about 2-3 points or whatever, like really close to each other, and I think about 5 points behind them was Arbroath, and then there was that big gap that they built and managed to at the end sustain just about. Like the second half of our season wasn't great. I think they only got 3 or 4 wins after New Year. Like it wasn't. It was pretty for what was a rubbish championship, it was a pretty mid-table kind of form they had. So I'm going to imagine they're going to fall back into that sort of mid-tableness at best, I want to say. Sean Mackey and Calvin Beattie, they seem like really good signings. Sean Mackey especially, he's got plenty of experience at this level. He was at Rafe ages ago now, but of course he was part of that Falkirk League winning side. Pretty common first team starter as well for them. But yeah, I think they'll be fine. Just like obviously it's like last season. I think we all predicted them to finish bottom or ninth. I don't think they'll be in any sort of relegation trouble. Not out of them being particularly good. I just think the bottom two are going to be pretty bad this season. Kieran, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on Arbroath this summer?
Well, last season it was a bit of a freak season, you could say. They started off, as you say, from August to December. Especially I think we played them up at Gayfield and they obviously beat us. They were pretty good. They were very close to us, and St George's as well ran us pretty close. But ultimately, took a dip towards the end of the season. That ultimately led them to kind of falling a bit short in the quarterfinals against Dunfermline. But I think last season again, they took teams by a bit surprised, and I think we've got to kind of keep that in mind. They could probably do that again this season. But I think I don't think there'll be in any real. I'm just kind of echoing what you said, Callum. I think they'll be all right. I'd say about kind of mid table roundabout, but I don't think they will be in any kind of danger this season. I think as well. I think the management they've got is pretty decent as well. So I think they'll be all right. I think they'll be fine. I don't think they'll go down. But I don't think I can't see them being challenging the way they were last season.
Yeah, I was just having a check there of the League Cup. I mean, obviously, League Cup isn't the be all and end all for some. It's seen as a glorified pre-season, but in their group they got 2 wins, but they both came against the League Two sides. They ended up losing 2-0 to Montrose and 3-0 to Dundee United. So not the most inspiring in that aspect. Enzo, your thoughts on Arbroath going into the season?
Yeah, you mentioned obviously that they've lost Finlay Marshall, who there have been some rumours that he might potentially be loaned out to them again. It's just not been. They've not managed to get it quite over the line yet. If they could get him back, that would be a massive boost. He was arguably one of the best players in the division last season. Never mind one of Arbroath's best players. I think they've lost more than just Finlay Marshall, though. I mean, you look at the likes of Aaron Muirhead. He's away. He had a really, really strong season for them. Harry Cochrane is inexplicably rocked up at Greenock Morton. I don't really know how that happened. He was fantastic. I think most teams in the Championship would have loved to have had Harry Cochrane. And they've also lost Wilkie, who I think is now at Livingston as well. And these are some really, really strong players, guys who contributed significantly towards that season that they had. I like the management team. I've always found co-managers to be a bit of a weird one, to be honest with you, but they're making it work there. It's, Gold and Hamilton have had nothing but success since they took over the job. But I think my expectation is a bit of regression this season. I think there are poorer sides than Arbroath, which is why I also probably wouldn't necessarily be predicting them at this stage to finish in the bottom 2. But I wouldn't be shocked if they were flirting with those relegation spots at some point. But I was wrong about them last season. If they can get Finlay Marshall back again, then that'd be a huge, a huge positive for the chances of achieving whatever they have as whatever their expectations are. I would imagine as a club, honestly, they'd be quite happy just to consolidate again this year. I think they would probably take 8th if you offered it to them realistically. But yeah, it's very, very unrealistic and unlikely that they'll follow up on the phenomenal year that they had. I mean, let's not forget. They weren't a million miles off knocking Dunfermline out as well. That quarter-final tie was pretty close in the end. They brought in Andy Winter again, who I know is very, very well liked by Arbroath fans. I can see you kind of not particularly well liked by Wraith Rovers fans. Yeah, I'm aware of that. I mean, he did well for them when they were in League One, but I don't know. I'm looking at their squad and I'm thinking that is poorer than what you guys had last season. So yeah, I think they'll probably be okay come after 36 games. But I think you'll look at it and go, okay, yeah, that is quite a step back from what you achieved in the 25-26 season.
Yeah, I don't think
Mhm.
like any Arbro fans are going to be expecting a repeat of last season. I'll be honest, and
Yeah,
it's like as I mentioned earlier about how everyone pretty much just because they were the only part-time team last season, everyone was just like, yeah, they're just going to go down. But you know, we saw that it's like they got that playoff spot again. It's like, I think pretty much everyone's expectations for last season was. I think it's like even during that second half of the season, we just kept on saying during the podcast when they were third and they were still and they started to drop off. We were all just like, yeah, but I don't think they're going to be too unhappy about that. Like they're going to stay up, and that's for them like the minimum standard. And so yeah, it's like I've got them. Like you say, they're not going to be in the bottom two, but they're not going to be on paper. They're really not looking like threatening the playoffs this time around. But yeah, so that's our both unless you have anything to add, Kieran.
No, pretty much. I think both all of us have pretty much hit the nail on the head there, kind of thing. Again, just to kind of say, I don't think they will replicate the season they had last season was fantastic. Obviously, it wasn't as good as our I think it was a 21-22 season when they were very close to getting promotion to the top flight. When they were challenging Kelly for the title. Obviously, last season was wasn't as good as that one, but again, very successful season last season, and they were kind of unfortunate not to get further in the playoffs, but I think they just kind of ultimately fell up short, kind of thing, and yeah, that these things going to happen.
Oh, in that case, we shall move on to our second team, and that is Ayr United. They are back to having just their usual name this season after Scott Brown's departure. Coming in for them, you got Leon King with his Rangers loan being made permanent. Reece Lyons coming in from Queen of South. Luke Macbeth joining from Partick Thistle, so that'll be of interest to you, Kieran. Kieran Shanks joins from Peterhead. Ben Summers, his loan's been made permanent from Celtic. Ross Taylor has joined from Stenhousemuir. Owen Sturton has joined on loan from Dundee United, and Harry Stone has joined on loan from Hearts. With their departures, including Stuart Bannigan, David Craig, Ben Dempsey, Anton Dowes, Lucas McRoberts, David Mitchell, George Oakley, Scott Tomlinson, Ollie Ekrapont, Jude Bonner, George Finney, Max Thompson, Francis Turley, and Kyle Ure and Curtis Main. In regards to time around last season, whilst are both the biggest overachievers, Ayr in any normal circumstance would have been the biggest underachievers, but of course Ross County blew that out of the water, didn't they? Yeah, it's like they had a terrible end to last season. I think it was maybe like 2 or 3 wins from like December onwards. Like it was genuine relegation form before Scott Brown got sacked. Then John Rankin came in, so he got a win and a draw, and that was enough to basically guarantee them safety going into that final day melee that we had. Um, but yeah, it's like the replacing Scott Brown with Gary Naismith, I think, is a really good move. Like we've seen the work that he's done with Sinnersmuir, taking them up from League Two up to the Championship. It's like there's like Sinnersmuir hadn't won anything. Well, I say they hadn't won anything. They've won a Challenge Cup back in the '90s, I think, but they never won a league title, and he got them that. They've never been in the top flight since the mid '70s, and he's gone and got them up there with a after title fight with Inverness. So he's clearly got something about him as a manager. Biggest signing of these lot is easily Leon King. I believe there was rumours of Premiership clubs looking at him. Uh, Luke Macbeth, proven at this level. Kieran Shanks, I believe he's been one of Peterhead's best players for a few years now. I think he was up there in scoring charts. I want to say last season in League One. I can't remember, but I have definitely heard the name Kieran Shanks bounce around in regards to a potential championship move. Harry Stone coming in, he's proven himself as a pretty good championship goalkeeper, even though he was on loan at Airdrie last season. Was he on loan at Airdrie last
Stone's had a couple of loan spells in the championship, hasn't he?
He's been down here for a couple of clubs and he's been pretty good for them all. So, and with the fact that Scott Brown isn't here and he'll get at least 10 games in a row before disappearing off the face of the earth. So that is, again, a massive upgrade for them. I feel like this is a squad that they really should be in like a playoff place. Like, at a minimum fighting for a playoff spot. Like it were for like the first half of the season before just completely collapsing. Kieran, have you got anything to say about Ayr?
I mean, I just to kind of touch on what you said about last season for United. It was very disappointing for them to say the least, and I'd kind of go as far to say if it wasn't for Morton, County, and Airdrie being as poor as they were, I think they would have been right. I think they would have been right in amongst that relegation fight towards the end. I felt they were really on the downward trajectory last season, and obviously that led to Scott Brown getting sacked, and they brought in John Rankin to kind of steady the ship, and obviously he was successful and done that. Kind of kept him out of any major danger, kind of thing. But I think the Gary Naismith appointment is fantastic. I think it's a really good appointment for not just for Ayr United, but for Gary Naismith as well. I think he more than deserved it. After he's the job that he done at Stenhousemuir and for Ayr United, I think that they kind of need that kind of more better, fresh ideas kind of thing. I still think they're lacking a clinical striker, mind you. I don't think they've got that. Obviously, they let go Anton Dowds and Oakley both today. I think that's a bit that'll come back to bite them. But they've still got a really good squad there. They had as well as that they had a bit of a clear out, but they brought in some good talent as well. I just say Leon King, I think that's a massive coup for any team at this level, to be honest. So Ayr United to snap him up is fantastic. Obviously, looking at depth as well for us. He can play at centre back and he can drop in at centre defensive mid. I think for us, so I don't think it was really going to get any real game time for us. So I think Ayr United is a fantastic move for Luke Macbeth. Just to kind of touch on that there, but I think they'll be all right as well. In fact, they're through in the next round of the cup as well, where they have a mouth-watering tie with their Ayrshire rivals Kelly, which that'll be a good one to watch. But I think they'll be okay. I think they will be definitely up there kind of thing, up there challenging for the playoffs. I think that the squad there it's worthy enough for a playoff fight kind of thing. So they would just hopefully want to have a better season than last season, because last season was it was really bad for us for Ayr United. I think anything better than last season would be a kind of success for Ayr, but certainly they should be looking at challenging for the playoffs.
I was going to say when you're talking about anything better than last season, I don't think 6 will be considered a success, to be honest.
No.
We've seen like the investment that's been put into Somerset Park. It's like they've got that big new stand, and it's like some of the rumours about what players are being paid and whatnot. They've probably got a higher end budget, possibly 4th or 5th in this league. So yeah, I'd imagine 4th is probably their aim. 5th at an absolute minimum. If it's if it's like a point or 2 in it at the end of the season, something like that, then yeah, that's what I'd imagine their standards are going to be this time around. Enzo, you got anything to say about Ayr United?
Yeah, I would agree with your general kind of summary of what their expectations should be going into this season. I think they should be aiming for the top 4. Maybe they'll even be thinking if things click, they can push a little bit further than that. The only thing I would say, and the only thing that would make me a little bit nervous, I suppose, is that Gary Naismith is. I mean, the last time he managed at this level, he struggled. And I'm not suggesting he's going to struggle here. I think the job he did at Stenhousemuir was absolutely phenomenal. But I think Ayr fans are going to have to be patient with him and with some of the younger players, some of the less experienced players that they've brought in. And I mean, maybe Ayr fans listening will disagree with this, but I think Ayr fans are quite fickle and quite quick to turn on players and managers. And if it's, say if they go on a run of 5 or 6 games where they don't pick up as many points as they're expecting, like the atmosphere at Somerset Park can actually get a wee bit toxic sometimes. And I think they need to get behind them. Unless obviously he turns out to be absolutely dog meat. I don't think he will be, but unless he turns out and the team turns out to be absolutely dog meat, in which case, boo away, I don't care. But I think they might have spells this season where they might struggle a little bit, just as he readjusts to the football at this level. Just as guys like Owen Sturton, for example, I had the privilege of watching him play against us for Airdrie. Now, granted, Airdrie were a poor side, but he, as an individual, was terrible that day. And I know he scored a couple of goals in the League Cup group stages, but it's going to be a different beast when you're playing Championship football every single week. They're going to need to be patient with guys like that. Rhys Lyon, obviously, he's played in the Championship before. I think he did okay when he was at Morton. I don't think he was necessarily a world beater, but I think he did okay. Kieran Shanks, again, he's played in the Championship before when Arbroath signed him from Inverurie local works back in the day. He struggled. He's obviously grown up a little bit since then. He's had a bit more experience with playing senior football. I think there's you talk about Leon King as well. I hate Leon King. He was absolutely terrible when we had him on loan from Rangers. But these things change. There's a reason why he was at Rangers. There's a reason why he had a good season for Ayr last season. And he was in a terrible Queen's Park team, to be honest with you. So I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think they will have a good season, but I think they'll be patchy at times, which is why I don't think they'll be good enough to challenge for anything better than 4th. And I think there'll be points where Naismith might be under a little bit more pressure than what he would have been if he was still at Stenhousemuir, for example. But I agree with you; it's an excellent job for him to take. If it clicks there, then if he's everything he's done with Steny, which is incredible, arguably the best manager in the club's history. If he goes on and let's say he takes Ayr to 4th, and they can build on that and try and put in a title race, a title bid the following season, which maybe is kind of what they're thinking, slightly medium term. I think it's a great job for him. So yeah, I think they'll be good, but they're not going to be as good as certain other teams in the division.
Yeah, that's pretty much what my thinking was. I think there's a very clearly defined top 3 in this league, and then it's going to be like a bit of everyone else, and then a pretty well defined bottom 2. So yeah, it's just going to be a real case of getting that playoff spot and then seeing where they can go from here. Like you say, with Naismith, if he had stayed at Stenhousemuir, then no matter what would have happened, he would have probably been fine, even if they were to finish bottom, because he's got that much credit in the bank there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Obviously, it's like go to A United, new club, you don't have any credit in the bank, and it's like those Ayr fans can be a very angry bunch. So if they do start to turn on them, oh boy, they will turn on them. But it's like the Ayr board seem to be a bit patient, because I feel like I remember there being pressure on Brown from December onwards, because if I remember correctly, it's Ayr were a bit rubbish at home last season. I think they only got 3 wins there all season.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It was when that big gap to Arbroath was really showing, and it was they were just dragged in this midfield where everyone was terrible, and they were the least terrible, and then they became a bit more terrible towards the end of Brown's tenure. So I think the Ayr board will have patience with him. He'll definitely see out the season. I don't see him getting sacked at all. But yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the sort of pressure the Ayr fans can pile on him. Kieran, have you got anything to add?
I think again, we're pretty much hitting the nail on the head there. I don't really. Last season, I think again they were just massively underperforming Ayr United, and they had to get rid of Scott Brown. Obviously, I think even before December, Callum, I think there was shouts for Ayr fans wanting him gone. Don't know if that was due to Ayr fans just being the angry bunch that they are, or the football was that terrible. I remember when we played them in the League Cup. I think it was about August time. The stage before I think it was a knockout stage, the stage before the quarterfinals, and they weren't the best that day either. So I mean, so just I think Ayr United should be expecting to challenge for challenge for the playoffs, but whether they do or not is a completely different story.
I do remember it being there was a point where I think it was when Scott Brown got sacked. It was a case of like their only win in 2026 at that point was at Somerset, and it was against us. So it basically wasn't a win at all, because it's like last season we were absolutely terrible away from home. So yeah, it was very much a deserved sacking in that instance. But yeah, we'll be interested to see how they press on this season. Speaking of interesting teams to see how they will press on this season, it is Dunfermline Athletic up next. Their signings this summer have been Kian Kobali from Ballymena United, Musa Debaga from Crusaders, formerly of Inverness Caledonian Thistle. Aston Oxborough, his loan has been made permanent from Motherwell, and there was a fee involved in that one as well. Luke Robinson has signed from Wigan, Ollie Shaw has signed from Hamilton Accies, and Sam Cleo Harding has joined on loan from Dundee United. So not as many signings as people were expecting for this point, but of course there's still a month in the window and the free transfers, so whenever. But then look at their outgoings. They've got Chaloka Mullins away to Wigan, Sam Fisher's away to Airdrie, Chris Hamilton has gone to Ross County. He was their captain, I want to say, and he'd been there for years. He was one of their more experienced players. Liam Hoggins gone to Cardiff. Denise Mehmet has gone to Queen of the South. Matty Todd has joined St Johnstone. Sam Young has joined Stenhousemuir. Zeke Cameron and Lucas Fife have both gone to Stirling Albion as part of the co-op loan. Jake Sutherland has joined Montrose on loan. Graham Carey has gone back to Livingston. Ollie Thomas has gone back to Bristol City. Freddie Turley has gone back to Derby County. I don't remember that name ever coming up. And then the release list, you've got Kieran Enzo, Tashan Oakley Booth, Ewan Otto, who is still free agent, surprisingly. Although apparently he's on a trial at Rotherham.
Yeah, that's right. I saw that on Twitter, yeah.
Oh no, he's League Two, aren't they, Rotherham? I think they got relegated. Yeah,
I think they're League One, are they not?
No, they got relegated. Actually. I just remembered that. I'm so used to them bouncing between League One and League One and the Championship. It's like someone asked, "Oh, let's stop bouncing between these divisions, please." Okay, let's go to League Two instead. Chris Kane. Oh no, not Chris Kane. Sorry, Kane Richie Holzer is away. I just seen Kane and then it just went down to the next line. So I thought Chris Kane is away. He's not away. But yeah, I think with Dunfermline, they'll be looking to build on what was a very strong end to the season. As I was saying about A United and being in the muck with the terrible teams, Dunfermline really came out of that quite strongly. They had a really excellent second half of the season. They reached the Scottish Cup final. They made the playoff semi-final where it was looking good until Ashton Oxborough got recalled by Motherwell like the day of the second leg against Partick Thistle, which I found quite funny because it basically scuppered any hopes for them. But yeah, there's evidently by the list of outgoings there has been a big clear out. Clearly, a bunch of them who were here before James Ford and his Yankee gambling crew took over the club. Ashton at Oxborough is Dunfermline's first permanent goalkeeper signing since Denise Mehmet joined, which is quite a streak to have considering it's Denise Mehmet, and then you look at the other goalkeepers they've had in that time. It's, he's actually a good goalkeeper, so that big weakness that Dunfermline have had for years is no more. I think it's weird because it's like Visa Devago was actually really good for Inverness this season or two that he was there, and it's like I remember Inverness fans thinking, oh, he's going to go on to some pretty big things, and he just disappeared. Like I could not tell you where he went before Crusaders. Like he went off somewhere in like English non-league, I think. But yeah, it's like when I saw that he'd signed, it was just like, oh, that's actually a somewhat decent signing. I remember him being really good for Inverness, and then he just had an absolute clanger against East Kilbride. um, but then you've also got Ollie Shaw coming in. He's coming up from Hamilton, and that's a really good signing as well. He's clearly proven to be a good goal scorer at this level, at least, and especially at League One. Of course, it has been a case of like the last 2 seasons where it's like he's had really good first half of the season and like dropped off. But then when you consider that he's been playing for Hamilton and everything that's gone on there, it's like you can't really blame him for having that sort of drop off. Chaloka Mullen and Matty Todd, they're probably the two big losses. I think Chaloka Mullen was a Scotland under-21 international pretty regularly there. Matty Todd, away to St Johnstone, he's been pretty good. He was pretty good as well last season. I guess a big win so far is the fact that Andrew Todd is still at the club. I remember. I'm not sure if there were any like actual rumours, but I think there were people of who supported Premiership clubs looking at him, just being like, I wouldn't mind if my club took a punt on him. And to be fair, I'm actually surprised none of them did. I can only imagine what sort of transfer dealing stuff Dunfermline have got going on with him. I think with Dunfermline, it's like because of how they went about last season, people are going to have them in a title fight. I don't think they're quite there, but they're going to be pretty comfortable in like third. I think that I just think they're going to be. It's like sort of like how Arbroath were sort of like a step back in the first half of the last season from the title fight with um, Thistle and St Johnstone, but then they had that big gap to everyone else. I think they'll be there, but instead of like collapsing in the second half of the season, they'll just sort of maintain it across the whole year. I mean, I wouldn't be too surprised if, say, they do finish third, and then depending on the playoffs, they might actually get through to the final this time around. But yeah, I just think it's like the transfer business has been too quiet for me to think they'll be in a title challenge. Enzo, I'm going to let you go first this time. What are your thoughts on Dunfermline?
I think obviously getting Oxborough back on a permanent deal was a real kind of sign of intent for me. They are a club that I've kind of associated with having a bit of a goalkeeper crisis for a number of years. So obviously Denise Mehmet had a phenomenal season the last time they were in League One, but he's maybe not lived up to the same kind of expectations since they rejoined the Championship. I think that's huge for them. Losing Chilwell Mullen is massive though for me. Not only just because he's obviously a very talented young player, but I think latterly he also became their captain, didn't he? He was kind of wearing the captain's armband most weeks as well. So that's a huge loss. I don't know. I mean, obviously, Dunfermline fans, understandably given the season that they ultimately had last season, Dunfermline fans seem to think that they should be challenging for the title this season. And I suppose with the investment that's going into the club, that probably is the case. I actually think my biggest concern for them is, I know he scores goals, I know he has a decent record. I don't particularly rate Ollie Shaw. Chris Kane's going to be dead 6 months of the season. Zach Rudden is Zach Rudden. Like, I think they're going to need. I think they need another striker. And to be fair, I think they'll find another striker somewhere as well. I think they'll manage to bring someone else in, because it seems pretty clear to me that they're. I think Neil Lennon actually mentioned in an interview the other day that he's still looking to bring 4 or 5 bodies in. I would also imagine that Dunfermline will be quite an attractive location for some of the bigger clubs to send loanees out once they've kind of assessed the squad situation and decided who doesn't make the cut. So I would agree, comfortably top four, but I don't think they're going to have quite enough about them to go the full length and win the title. What I do think, though, is that if they genuinely believe that they can, and I think Neil Lennon does, and I think their fans do, and I think them as a club do feel that they can and should maybe even be going to win the title this season, I think it's absolutely massive that they have a good start to the season. See if they can string together 4 or 5 wins relatively early doors. That'll put them in a really good place. See if like they have a bit of a slow start. Like they obviously in the League Cup group stages they had that slow start against they lost to East Kilbride. Granted, they did ultimately end up going through, knocking my team out in goal difference in the end. We were the third the third best second place team until Dunfermline managed to beat St Mirren on the last on that Sunday afternoon. But I think it's going to be absolutely paramount that they have a good start to the season if they have any real goals of challenging for the title, because it could be that there's certain other sides that just get a wee bit out of reach, a wee bit too far out of reach too quickly for them.
Yeah, like I do think they can do as you say, go on that run of 4 or 5 wins, starting off. Just as long as it doesn't include beating us in the first derby of the season at the end of August. Just lose that one, but it's like you can win the others. That's perfectly fine. But yeah, I do see where you're coming from, because it's like a lot of money's going into. It's like a lot of money's being spent here, and I feel like if they do have a slow start, if they have a slow first quarter, then it's like you could maybe see Lennon getting sacked at some point if they have if it's a similar start to what they had last season anyway. Then yeah, I could maybe see Neil Lennon going, but I just think at the moment I don't see that happening. But I forgot what I was going to say. So Kieran, I'll just I'll just let you have your thoughts on Dunfermline.
I think you have pretty much hit the nail on the head there. I think last season overall, you could say it was pretty successful for Dunfermline. Pretty much more so in the cup, you would say. Obviously, as you said, reaching the cup final, obviously losing out to Celtic, and then obviously making it to the playoff semi-finals. Obviously, I felt against us, they were actually very unlucky against us. I think obviously tiredness showed, and obviously Aston Oxborough getting loaned out like last minute, loaned back to Motherwell, which led to Tyrrell being in goals, and I don't know what happened there. Gifted us 2 goals when they were in a pretty decent position in the second leg, but I think kind of momentum for the cup, you could say, as well, kind of took over a wee bit, because they were doing so well in the cups as well. That kind of took over and that translated into the league. But I think they'll be up there and playoffs kind of area, comfortably top 4. I don't know what would be a successful season for Dunfermline though. Would it be playoffs again, or will it be actually pushing for the title? Obviously, I know they're spending a bit of dosh, so they'd obviously be. I think they'd be expecting a bit more than just being in the playoffs, and that's it. I think they'd actually want to, if they're in the playoffs, look to challenge to get promoted for there. But as well as that, they beat St Mirren and they beat Premier League opposition, or Premiership opposition, sorry, in St Mirren, which obviously was to the detriment of Enzo's Queen's Park. But aye, it's shown that again when they come up against these bigger sides, these bigger teams, they can beat them. That's obviously they beat Aberdeen, Hibs last season in the Scottish Cup. Now they've disposed of Hibs in the League Cup. So I honestly I think I suspect another kind of similar season to them. I think they'll have a better start than what they had last season. I don't think they really found their rhythm until about Christmas time, I would like to say. And then that's when kind of air obviously kind of fell off. I mean, I think air fell off about September, October time, never mind Christmas. But I think a decent season for them would be playoffs, and again a decent run in the cup. I think any kind of team would take that, to be honest. Any team that at this level, but I think they'll be all right and comfortably top 4.
I remember the point I was going to make. It was to do with their squad depth. It's like Enzo was going on about the striker situation, and I feel like the same thing right now is what's going to be the cause of any slow start. I don't think there's any real injury concerns right now as a know of, unlike a certain other team in Fife that we'll get onto. But yeah, as I was saying, I mean, in regards to the relative lack of signings so far, then that's where my concern is right now. But I feel like, as you say, Kieran, like the money being thrown around there, they should be able to assemble a squad that even with like players on the bench would be starters for probably most of the championship. I would say. I feel like that's probably what their aim is. I know you said about their aims of what would being a success, whether just reaching the playoffs would be that. I think it will be just because of the gap that there was between them and the top two last time around. I think closing it to maybe similar to what Ayr were like a couple seasons ago, where they were sort of hanging on the coattails of Falkirk and Livingston, and then sort of like fell away at about sort of March time ish. I can. That's probably I think that's the most likely scenario for Dunfermline this season. Just sort of on the edge of a title battle, but just not quite there. And then next season, really go for it, just depending on, it's like who comes down, all that sort of stuff. But, it's a weird one because it's like, we see this whenever Livingston come down. It's like, oh, this is a big opportunity for someone to really go up and make a challenge, and then Livingston just find a way to get out of the division. But, yeah, we'll be interested to see how they go. Enzo, anything to add on?
No, I do think they'll have a good season. I think they have a good team. I think Neil Lennon has exceeded my expectations. To be honest with you, I did not expect. Like I thought it'd be a complete disaster at Dunfermline. To be honest with you, because I always associate Neil Lennon with coming into a bigger club where the expectations are high, but he also has, for this, relative to the level of football he's managing, a good squad. And I just never saw him as being the kind of guy that would come into a relatively young team, put an arm around them and get the most out of them, and kind of help develop these younger players. He's proved me wildly wrong at Dunfermline. I do wonder if there's any risk at any point whether they're doing well, if like somebody else might come in and try and snap him up just because of his reputation and his name. But then again, would he want to go? Maybe not, because he's obviously quite handsomely paid there, well backed by the board. The fans like him, and he seems fairly settled. So who knows? That's certainly going to be an interesting season for them anyway.
I think that will be the case. And speaking of teams and interesting seasons, we move on now to Greenock Morton. Oh boy. Oh, this is going to be a fun section. So, Morton's transfers so far have been Harry Cochrane joining from Arbroath, Leif Fernie joining from Eastbourne Borough, who played in the National League South, Jaden Gorman from Dubai City, so a similar route to Josh Fowler. So either he could be like a hidden gem or terrible. Brian Kinnear from Clyde, Bobby McClukey from Hearts, Joey O'Toole from Jersey Bulls, who play in like Isthmian something, like tier 8 in England. Grant Savory from Queen's Park, Callum Sanderlands on loan from Hearts, and then being signed yesterday on Tuesday, Eli Harrison from Manchester United. The outgoings, meanwhile, Cammy Blues and Aaron Comrie have both gone to Hamilton Accies. Zach Delaney's joined Rafe. Cammy McPherson has gone to Livingston. Owen Moffat has joined East Kilbride. Fergus Owens, he's also joined Hamilton Accies. Keane Taylor's gone to Airdrie. Murray Johnson has returned to at the end of his loan to Hibs. Laporta White has gone back to Leeds. Aaron Lyle back to Ross County. Curtis May back to Ayr, but then eventually released. James Storer back to Wolves, whilst Ali Crawford, Zach Kai, and Nathan Shaw are all without a club as it stands. Boy, where do we start with Morton? This is a very messy situation, shall we say. So we've already had a club update from them where it basically boiled down to the whole situation in regards to their ownership structure. It's the Morton Community Trust who have the controlling stakes. and then what's it, Estrella Group? They're called. I've
Yes.
like brought. It's like they've come in, and you're thinking it's like they're thinking like this is a multi-club sort of situation, and you're thinking, oh, they're going to provide some extra transfer funds because a lot of clubs in this Estrella Group are in Portugal, and I can't remember if they have an Italian team, but they definitely got a presence in the Mediterranean. So you're thinking, oh, we might see some players from the lower leagues of Portugal or whatever coming in. Not seeing any of that. The whole Estrella funds are for sustainability, so that's for like off the pitch sort of stuff, so infrastructure and all that. Whereas the main funding for the squad comes from Dalrada, and Dalrada typically paying about £500,000. They've not been able to send the money and won't be able to send that money for a few months because of some issues with their business operations over in America. It's a very messy situation. And with this, the League Cup campaign, um, according to the tables, the worst team was Annan, who had like a minus 13 goal difference or whatever. Morton were the worst team in the League Cup. I'm sorry, like they failed to score a single goal. There was games where I don't think they had a shot on target. You had a 1-0 loss to Lowland League East side Linlithgow Rose, a 2-0 loss to League One side East Fife. The game against St Johnston, I think they lost 2 or 3-0, but in that game, you had, I can't remember if they were starters or not, but you had players who were 15, like,
Yeah.
sometimes you
They
occasionally.
didn't start.
It's like sometimes you get players who make an appearance who are like when it's like when you're playing Football Manager, sometimes you get a 15-year-old who's really good, but it's like in no like 15 years and 200, 300 odd days, like maybe like a month or two away from their 16th birthday. No, like, these boys turn 15 in like May. Like they should not be playing senior football. I'm sorry, but it was just such a mess of a League Cup campaign. It was incredible. And then before Eli Harrison joined, the starting goalkeeper was Brian Kinnear, who I believe was the backup goalkeeper at Clyde, who are in League Two. So that's really concerning. And I think a lot of people's first managerial departures for like the whole of the SPFL this season is probably going to be Ian Murray. If Morton had money, then who knows? It's like this League Cup campaign may have been enough to see him sacked, and it would have beaten his record at us for being sacked after the first game. Because before the League Cup, his record last season after he took over at New Year was 4 wins, 4 draws, and 8 losses, including a 4-0 loss to League One at the time, Stenhousemuir, and like they very nearly got dragged. They were very close to actually going down. There was a scenario where they could have ended up in it very easily could have ended up in the relegation playoffs. They very easily could have finished bottom if Ross County won. Ross County. Um, I have not seen a club look in such a mess going into a championship season for a good while. I have, I think before all of this kicked off with like the League Cup campaign and all that, I think most people would have put them in like their standard seventh or something. But I like just about every prediction I have seen for the championship has got Morton bottom. Aside from this one guy on Twitter who, for whatever reason, put them like fourth. Like, hello, have you been paying any attention to this division?
Didn't that guy also have Dunfermline eighth?
I think he had Dunfermline eighth and Rafe ninth. It's like that's the worst prediction I've ever seen. It's like I know mine aren't the greatest, but like Jesus Christ, what basis do you have for that?
I think he also had Clyde, who are favourites for League Two, like eighth in League Two or something like that.
There's some. I mean this in the nicest way possible, but when it comes to prediction season, you can kind of tell who doesn't pay attention to anything outside of their own club. But yeah, Morton just look fucked, to put it lightly. Kieran, you're probably enjoying this. So, what are your thoughts on Morton this summer?
I'm saying nothing, man, because we've got them in next. We've got them in Saturday, the league opening game. So this all seems 1-0 Morton full time in our opening game of the league season. But no, last season they were incredibly bad. Left it to the last day to confirm survival in the championship with that shootout versus Avery. I can see them struggling again this season. I think that's putting it lightly, to be honest. But that was just that watching the League Cup, or looking at the League Cup. Sorry, results not that defeat to Lithgow Rose at home. That's shocking, man. It doesn't put any team in a good light heading into the season, and obviously their off the stuff matters, which is a bit above my pay grade. I've not kind of looked into it, but I think let's see Morton fans on Twitter, they are really nervous heading into the season, this season ahead, and I don't blame them either. It looks like they're in a right state, to be honest, but
nervous for the inevitable Callum Blake video upload of what is going on in Morton.
Yeah, but
Have you started yet?
I also think that I also think Morton are like the jobby that just will not push.
They've been in the championship longer than any team. I think they've been in the championship for, is it like 12 or 13 seasons or something like that?
Yeah,
without being promoted or relegated.
Miracle, genuinely.
Yeah,
it's like every couple of seasons they somehow have like some kind of mini crisis at some point in the season, and it's like under Emery they just didn't have that. They had like this nice period of stability. I think it was like fifth, sixth.
But there was always still.
There was always still an
there was always an underlying concern somewhere that something was just going to go to shit at some point.
Yep,
definitely
gone to shit.
And obviously as well. Obviously I think they were out the League Cup with 3 games to go. You know what I mean? So they played 2 games, and I think the defeat to East Fife confirmed them being out when they only played 2 games. So. It's not looking good for them at all, and I do think I was going to say unfortunately, that I don't think that's the right word at all to use for this. I do think they will be right down there. For Morton's sake, for Morton fans' point of view, I would be very nervous heading into this season. I think as any other fan, though, as a Thistle fan or whatever, you're quite enjoying it. But I mean, I don't know. I just think again for somewhere. They'll just pick up a random, because they've seen it before. They've done it time and time again. They just pick up a random like run of wins or whatever, and they end up staying up. You know what I mean? So I would not be too surprised if that's happened. But right now, they're not looking good whatsoever.
Do you know what? On paper, they've made a couple of okay signings. Like Harry Cochrane's a great signing. I touched on him earlier on. We were talking about Arbroath because he's a big loss for them. I'm not sure how he's ended up there. The one that I want to kind of talk about, and this is obviously just purely because of my experience as a Queen's Park fan, is Grant Savoury. Because Grant Savoury on paper is a fantastic player at this level, but he hasn't been a fantastic player at this level in 3 full seasons. He hasn't really played any significant football since he picked up that bad injury at the end of the 21-22 season, I think it would have been. And my understanding is that we had said to him, Grant, look, we'll offer you pre-season to get yourself up to fitness, and we'll assess you, and then we might offer you a contract on the basis of that. And then Morton have obviously swooped in and gone, no, we'll give you a contract, no questions asked. And he's already injured. Like I don't think he played any minutes in any of the League Cup group stages. And I know what's going to happen, because this happened every week with us. The manager would come out and say, oh, he's doing this again, he's doing that again, he'll be back shortly. Then he'll maybe come back, maybe play 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there, then he'll disappear for 3 months again. And I feel so bad for Grant Savoury, because I really, I love the guy. He was such a good player. I feel terrible for the way his career's gone, because he wouldn't still be playing in the Championship if he hadn't picked up that injury. He was too good for this level. It's a really, really shite situation. But my point is, I can't believe Morton signed him so quickly in the transfer window as well. I just don't know what they were thinking, especially for a club that isn't particularly moneyed at this point in time. Not that I would imagine he's on a significant wage or anything like that. But yeah, at least they do have another goalkeeper in now. They've got another goalkeeper in now on loan from Manchester United. We'll see how he goes. Like in my experience, quite often these under-21 players coming up from down south from that Premier League 2 are absolutely stinking. But Morton did have Storer, to be fair. Goalkeeper came up from, I think it was either Wolves or Watford, I can't remember which of the two. Yeah. And he did fantastically well, so maybe they'll look into that to potentially try and replicate what he did. I don't really know what's the striker situation. Is Eamon Brophy still there? Is he still dead? Like, what's going on with him? Absolutely no idea.
Who do they have?
Yeah, look, I always say that you can't take too much from the League Cup group stages, right? But see, even just mentally for a team, when you're the first Championship team in the history of the group stages since they were implemented, to not score a single goal in the League Cup group stages, it's difficult not to go into a new season quite concerned. And if I were a Morton fan, I would be concerned. And to be fair, from what I've read online, Morton fans are certainly very, very good. I mean, I've seen them comparing themselves to that Brecon team that got like 4 points or whatever it was. I don't think it's not. There's no way it's going to be as bad as that. Absolutely no way it's going to be as bad as that. But I do think they might struggle. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
I remember seeing something suggested about how it's like, because obviously as I mentioned about the Dalrada money being what they use for this squad, and the fact that it's not coming along, someone's saying about how it seems as though these signings of Cochrane, Storer, and all that lot were basically a case of building like a base level squad. It's like filling up depth positions first, and then once the Dalrada money came in, they can then start to sign the starters, those who are
and then it didn't
actually of like
of course,
quality, and it's just not come. So they're just there with what is on paper
that
probably
would, I mean, that
a League One team, mid-table maybe, and they're just stuck in the Championship. Like you say, it's like the comparisons to Brecon. No, like that Brecon team is never being beaten unless it's like Morton is sat on say 10 points at April and then they go and do an Aki's and get a 15-point deduction.
I agree with that.
That's not happening. But my God, you can probably. I think the last team I would say properly struggled at this level was Arbroath a couple of seasons ago when they went down. They finished on something like 25 points or whatever. Christ. As it stands, I will be amazed if Morton get to above that tally. I can genuinely see them not reaching 20. They'll reach double digits because, like, at Capillo, they'll just shithouse a couple of 1-0 wins here and there and get like a couple of 0-0 draws wherever. But my God, they're just really bad going into this season. Kieran, do you have anything else you want to add about Morton?
I'm pretty nervous now because we've just gave Grant Morton a drive-by shooting for like 5 minutes here. You know what's coming now. It's going to be 1-0 Morton full time on Saturday.
Or nothing each.
Oh,
I think nothing each.
All of us get clipped up, and then the moment we like lose 3-0 at Capillo.
Yeah. I think you've all pretty much hit the nail on the head. Hit the nail on the head there. I can't see them. I like getting out this kind of rut they're in. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think they're going to be strong contenders for facing the drop this season.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably right, to be honest with you. I still maintain, look, I think the squad that they still have, assuming everybody's fit, which is obviously going to be a problem for them, is potentially. Well, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'll be amazed if he plays more than 10 games for them this season, to be honest. And even then, it won't be 10 full games. Again, I hope that's not the case. I genuinely wish them well. So I wish them all the best, but I just can't see it. Look, they have some good players, right? They do. Like, if everybody's fit, let's just assume this goalie's all right. I don't know if it will be this. Was it Eli Harrison? Is it?
Yeah.
Jackson Longridge is a decent player. Cammy Ballantyne is a decent player. Ian Wilson is a decent player. He's a good player. In fact, I think they were worried they were going to lose him. Harry Cochrane is a good player. Grant Gillespie can be all right. Sandy Lynn's on loan from Hearts might be okay. I know he had a fantastic season. He had a fantastic season at Montrose last season. Eamon Brophy, if he's fit, can do okay. Michael O'Halley, they have some decent players there. Like on paper, the players that I've just named all walk into that Stenny team, for example. They do. But it's just a case of getting it all together. Also, another factor that we haven't touched on as well is that I personally think Ian Murray's a shite manager. I've been saying this since he was the Airdrie manager. I don't rate him at all. I know he had that one fantastic season with Wraith Rovers, fine. But I just, broadly speaking, find him very uninspiring. And I don't think I think like he's what he's got to work with, he's got to work with. He needs to stop coming out in interviews looking so miserable and talking about how they need players and how they're skint and just work with what he's got and try and get the most out of them. Because if he can do that, then maybe they will be able to turn a wee bit of a corner. But I don't think he's the man for this job either. But again, I also don't think they can afford to get rid of him.
You just remind me of the fact it was his post-match interview against Lithgow Rose, and it's like they're obviously doing it in front of the main stand, and about like 30 seconds in, you can't hear what he's saying because you can hear like the catering staff or whatever pulling down the big metal blinds or covering, whatever you want to call them. I forgot the name for them now, but you just
shutters.
Shutters. That's it. You just hear them rattling.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, that's the happiest Ian Murray has ever.
Yeah, and there's also the interview he gave the other day as well, because they've obviously had Mackenzie Carson on trial for a couple of games. He was on loan for us a couple of seasons ago. He did score one very good goal against the Vermont, but did precisely nothing else for the rest of his spell here. But they've got Mackenzie Carson on loan, and he was asked about him in an interview, and he said, I can't remember the exact wording of it, but he basically said, well, we can't really offer him very much money. I wouldn't be accepting that offer if I were him. And it's like, what are you doing, mate? Like, you can't be kind of saying stuff like that.
What a way to sell Green and Morton to any potential free agents.
Nonsense, man.
I don't think see if it goes really bad really quickly for Morton. I don't see him lasting October. I think he'll be in his arse. But it's a case of if Morton are in the shit, can they afford to get rid of him? But I mean, I think they will essentially, pull that trigger if they have to. Because as Enzo said, I was literally, lining up to kind of say that about Murray as well. I did kind of. I thought he was good at Wraith, and obviously what he done at Airdrie as well. But since then, I think his stock's just completely dried out, and I think he was out the kind of game. He was at the managerial game for about a year, maybe two after he left Wraith, and
it was about a year, wasn't it?
It was a year. It was quite a bit. So I don't know. Maybe that's had a bit to play, but as Enzo said, he's not the most.
They did sack him like 6 months after he signed a 2-year deal or something like that. So,
he had them one game into the season.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's like Murray was good for. It's like his first full season. We reached Challenge Cup final and we finished 6th, and we were just like in no man's land. So it was just sort of like, okay, this is fine. This is like completely bog standard Wraith Rovers. And then had that first half of the season, which was absolutely fantastic. And then after that point, it started to go downhill. And it's like, obviously, it's like the timing of his sacking was still really weird, but it's like when the board like came out and basically went, "This is why," and it's just basically It was basically just like the 2024 results. I just sort of like, okay, yeah, I get that. So, but the thing is, though, I don't think you say about Murray being sacked or whatever, that's just not going to happen just for financial reasons. But I reckon it'll just be a case of mutual termination.
Yeah, definitely.
Or like Murray will resign at like the end, like the middle of August, and just to like save his reputation or something like that. Moving on to a club that is a bit less of a shit show, and that is Inverness Caledonian Thistle, League One champions last time around and Challenge Cup runners up. I think we all know who they lost that final to, but when it comes to their transfers coming in, you've got Miller Keir from Turf United for £30,000, Noah Booton from Bournemouth, Ryan Duncan from Aberdeen, Hamza Cargbo from Maidstone United, up the Stones, Rolly McGregor from Queen's Park, Graham Shinney from Aberdeen, Kerr Smith from Aston Villa, Liam Soule, his loan's been made permanent from Livingston, Morgan Bates has joined on loan from Swansea, and easily the two most important signings here, Alfie Babbage and Alfie Stewart return on loan from Aberdeen. There is a lot of outgoings here. You got Jordan Olongi going to Salisbury, Ben Gardner going to Brora, Ross Millen joining Raith Rovers, Sam Nixon joining Brora, Matthew Strachan joining for Martin United, Robbie Thompson joins Strathspey Thistle, James Clark, Brora on loan, Kenzie Harkness, Forest on loan. There's a whole bunch of loans to Highland League teams, and then you got Ben Brannan returning to Kelly, Mitchell Robinson returning to Livingston, Kyle Willits rejoining Stoke, and then Jake Davidson, Oscar McIntyre, Jack Walker, and Chanka Zimba have all left on free transfers. As mentioned, League One champions and Challenge Cup runners up. They did manage to top their group with they beat Morton 1-0, they beat St Johnson 1-0. Topping their group, pretty good start to the season. As mentioned, the signings or the re-signings of Babbage and Stewart are massive. Like, they really highly rated last season, and it's even the season before that. I think Stewart was at Inverness. I want to say, and he was again really right. I'm surprised that last season neither of them ended up in the championship, but clearly the Aberdeen saw what they were able to do at Inverness when they were in the shit, so it was just like, right, we'll give you another season, and they've shone last season. Miller Keir is probably one of the most interesting ones. He was actually linked with Raith and also Ross County because he's a striker, he's 19 years old, and he managed to get 28 goals in 33 games last season for Turf in the Highland League. He was a top scorer there, and to be doing that at 19, there's clearly some kind of ability. I'm obviously surprised Ross County didn't snap him up, to be honest, because I think like League One would be the perfect. A League One Ross County side would be the perfect kind of team for a young striker coming up from the Highland League to go into. But it's like Inverness have got him, so I think that'll be an interesting one to have a look at. When it comes to like the squad as a whole, though, we've already spoken about Morton being one of the bottom two, but Inverness are going to be nowhere near any sort of relegation issues at best. It's like we tend to see the team that wins League One do really well. It's just that sort of momentum, but the thing is, like, they were a bit sluggish getting over the line in Inverness last season, so playoff push is not completely out of the question, but I just feel like they're going to be a very comfortable mid-table, and I think just considering what's been going on with them the last few years with the administration and all that, I think they'll be more than fine with just being comfortably mid-table this time around. Enzo, have you got anything to say on Inverness? And your mic's not working.
Sorry, I muted my microphone because my dogs were barking at one point. Yeah, my potentially hot take, I suppose, is that I don't think Inverness' squad is that good, to be honest with you. And I think, look, you're right. Generally speaking, the champions come up, or sometimes a team promoted through the playoffs comes up and does quite well. We see it almost every single season. Obviously, Falkirk came up and won the league. Arbroath came up last season and finished third. It was in the end. I don't know. I find Inverness quite difficult to place. But see, if they were in a relegation scrap, I don't think it would surprise me, to be honest with you. Like, Alfie Stewart is a phenomenal player. Babbage, less so. I know he had a spell at Ayr, didn't he, in the Championship a few years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and he didn't look great from what I recall. David Wotherspoon is ancient. Graham Shinney's also ancient, although I still think he'll do a really good job at this level. I don't know. I mean, obviously, just purely from a Queen's Park perspective, they picked up Roddy McGregor again, who we initially signed from Inverness. My understanding is that we made him an offer, but he wasn't happy taking a pay cut. And I don't know whether maybe he's because he's from Inverness. So I don't know whether maybe he was happy enough to take a bit less money to move back home as well. I'm just looking at their squad. Like, Ryan Duncan's not a good player. Louis Longstaff is not a good player. I'm focusing in on the guys that I know because they've played for us in the past, obviously. Don't know much about this Hamzad Carbo guy. I don't know about the striker options, again, kind of similar to Dunfermline, but worse. Morgan Bates again on loan from Swansea. Who knows? I don't know, man. They've got about 1 million midfielders. They could probably use a bit of defensive coverage. They could probably use someone else up front. Like I think purely because of momentum, they probably will be fine, and I think they'll maybe finish 7th or something like that. But I don't think they're anywhere near as strong as some of the teams that we've seen previously win League One, come up to the Championship. And I don't think they'll be anywhere near the top 4 anyway.
You were saying there about midfielders. I remember when they announced that Stewart and Babbage had re-signed. I think it was. I don't think it was. It was on Twitter. I don't think it was a 30, but I think it was Young Scots page. I remember they put up a post about, Inverness have re-signed Alfie Stewart and Babbage, who are two young Scottish midfielders.
Yeah.
Have they silently built the best midfield in the Championship? And it's literally like the entire comments were just no. It's just immediate no. It's like they're two good players, and like you say, it's like 7th is. I'll just like skip ahead here as well. I've got them because I just think they're just going to be fine. Like, as you say, it's like better teams have had better momentum going into this season and done well, whereas Inverness don't look that high up. I mind Alex in the chat, he was saying about how, Inverness look pretty meh. And, it's like, what was it? It's like their first pre-season friendly. I think it was their first pre-season friendly, and it was a 4-0 loss to Ross Kelly. Of course, it's like first pre-season friendly. You don't really care, but it was really funny. It was really funny reading the Inverness Pie and Bravo page because there's this one guy, Inverness fan, he's like a really shit troll, and he just keeps on posting like AI images, and he just had like a complete meltdown. It was beautiful.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he's a troll so much as like either like a 12-year-old or maybe like a grown man who probably shouldn't have internet access for one reason or another. I don't know. I know exactly who you're talking about though. Yeah, unfortunately, he's also on Twitter. So good luck with that. You'll see him at some point this season.
I think I have seen him every now and then on Twitter. But even more insufferable than Kieran, believe it or not.
Oh, come on.
Speaking of Kieran,
I'll take that.
Speaking of, what are your thoughts on Inverness going into this season?
I mean, obviously, it's our first time back up since they went down in 2024, and it's a club that's been, completely through the mire. The past few years. I know that's when your shit's at the fan. Obviously, they nearly went to the wall and that as well, but it's good to see them back on their feet and, semi back to, where they belong, you could say. But they were ran very close by Stenhousemuir, and obviously they were pretty sluggish into winning the league title, as you said. But still ultimately won it, so they deserve their flowers for that. But I mean, I don't think, similar to what you're saying, Callum, I don't think they'll kind of find themselves in any massive danger, any massive threat of going down. Enzo saying, mind you, I can agree with his point as well. I wouldn't be surprised either if they do find themselves, in amongst that, bottom segment of the league. But I think ultimately, I think they'll be all right. I think they'll, stay up kind of thing. And I think first season back after what the club's been through, I think the fans would take that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you're getting when you say about being back really sort of belong. It's like Inverness do feel like a bit of a quintessential like championship team at this point. I mean, obviously they spent a long time in the Premiership as well, so probably in that sort of yo-yo barrier. But of course, it's like the kind of the progression between Championship and Premiership at this point is just completely dead. It's just completely dead. It's like go back down, go back up, go back down, go back up. That's just how the Premiership is and has been for a few years now at this point. But again, back on Tenzo's point about the squad, it is just very meh. And as I was saying, like when Falkirk came up, they were coming off the back of an unbeaten season and just an unreal run of form, and you saw what that did with their squad, which had relatively little change, and they just went on a mad run, ended up winning the title on the final day. Arbroath started off terribly in that League One season. I can't remember was it Michael McIntyre that was the manager of Arbroath before it was Hamilton and goal?
Was it not Jim Weir?
I can't remember now, but I just remember him being like terrible. He was there when he got relegated with like 25 points or whatever, and then he got sacked in October, and I think they
not.
I'm the bottom when they brought
Yeah.
Hamilton and goal, and then they just flew up the table, and they used that momentum for the season.
It was Jim McIntyre took over. I can't believe I said Jim Weir. Bloody hell, man! That was years ago. I'm showing my age. I'm showing my age with the Jim Weir thing. Jim McIntyre. Sorry, yes.
I said Michael McIntyre. That's an actor, isn't he?
He's a comedian.
It's a comedian.
To be fair, he probably would have done a better job than Jim McIntyre. But yeah, it's like they've had a good League Cup stage, which is like shows some kind of promise, but yeah, they just scream mid-table to me. Moving on to the team that was relegated from the Premiership, meanwhile, we do, of course, have Livingston without David Martindale for once, although he's upstairs, I think. Not dead, but he's just like...
That makes it sound...
he's upstairs. I'm like, no, not that way. No.
Would he be upstairs? Would he be downstairs?
I don't know. Jesus forgives sinners. It's like Davies. He served his time. He's therefore repenting for his sins. So he's going to go.
I'm just thinking that. I'm thinking of the Lemmy sketch. He's downstairs.
Jesus Christ! I should clarify to anyone that David Martindale is not dead. He's just like director of football.
No. He'll be Livingston manager again by January. Don't worry.
God, he will be, won't he? But yeah. So. Right, getting back on track here. Livingston, their signings have been Joe Boggan from Blackburn Rovers, Jordan Doherty from Raith Rovers, Bessia Esseni from KF Dukagjini, who play in the Kosovan top flight. They actually lost today to Lugano like 6-1 on aggregate in the Conference League. So, Hibs, that's how you beat a Kosovan side. Cammy McPherson has joined from Greenock Morton. Sam Nicholson has joined from Motherwell. Cammy Palmer has joined from Glentoran. Liam Polworth has joined from Kilmarnock. Tyrese Sinclair has joined from York City. Bradley Van Hoven has joined from newly promoted Polish extra-class side Motor Lublin. And Jack Wilkie has joined from Arbroath, although actually he was on loan there last season. Oh, no, he wasn't, sorry. But their outgoings, meanwhile, Lewis Smith has gone to Aberdeen for £300,000, which pretty good deal for them. But he was a starting goalkeeper. Tete Yenge, remember him?
Well, it was at the World Cup with Australia.
I can't believe he ended up at the World Cup. I remember chatting to I've got a few Australian pals, and I remember they were I mentioned him. It's like, how on earth did Tete Yenge get in that squad ahead of Martin Bowen? And I sent him his stats from when he was at the Championship last time at Livingston, where he got like 4 goals, I think it was, and he was a striker. But he's ended up at Machida Zelvia, who play in Japan. I think they're in the 2nd tier or something like that. His loan's been made permanent. It's just mad to see that name pop up. Daniel Finlayson has joined St Johnstone. Joel Newbley has joined Shenzhen Juniors over in China. Jamie Smith has joined Kelty Hearts. Liam Soul has gone to Inverness on a permanent. Yannick Vanna has joined SKN at St Polten over in Austria. Danny Wilson has gone to Sporting Club Jacksonville in one of the USL leagues. Andy Winter has joined Arbroath. Macaulay Tate, his loan has ended and he's back at Hearts. Alex Tam has returned to Olympia Ljubljana in the Slovenian top flight at the end of his loan. And then in the list of released players, you've got Scott Arfield, Jeremy Bakila, Lewis Latona, Samson Law, Barry Mackay, Andrew Shinney, and Mohamed Silla. Christ, what a list!
But they still have an enormous squad though. Like that, even despite all those outgoings, they must have the biggest squad in the division by about 15 players or something like that.
To be fair, they signed about like 30 players last summer, and it was the most bizarre transfer window I've ever seen, because you're thinking, okay, you've got promoted from the Championship to the Premiership, you probably want to sign maybe 5 or 6 players to bolster the squad who are like actual Premiership quality or whatever. They signed about 20 Championship quality players, and then it's just so weird. And like you say, they still must have like an absolutely massive squad. But yeah, Livingston last season, as you can probably tell by their absolutely mad summer of just signing Championship players, they were utterly honking last season in the Premiership. I think they broke Arbroath's record that had stood for about 30, 40 years of going about, what was it, like 33 game winless run. And, it's like their one win was against Jimmy Phelan's Aberdeen, and I cannot remember who their second win was against. It might have been against St Mirren.
Didn't they beat Falkirk like really early on in the season, like the first or second match day?
I think they might have done.
I'm sure they did.
I just remember it's like I swear most of their points probably did come against Falkirk because I think Falkirk failed to beat them, which is really funny.
Yeah, I'm sure Livingston were technically very briefly top of the league for like a day or something like that.
Yeah,
like in like the first match day or something.
Yes, I remember that graphic where it's like top of the league, Hearts 250 days, and Celtic like another like just under 100, and then like Rangers at about 20, and then Livingston at 1.
yeah, that rings a bell. Yeah,
graphics, but once again they'll be looking to go up at the first time of asking, and as I was saying with Kieran about how Premiership teams is like the progression for teams between Championship and Premiership is basically for like the past like decade has basically just been whoever's come down has just gone straight back up. And it's like we thought Livingston were going to be the team to break that trend after they didn't win the title, but then they beat Ross County in the playoffs. So who knows what will happen? Of those signings, Cammy McPherson's proven at this level, but we'll see how he does. Jordan Doherty, he was one of Rafe's best players last time around. We did offer him a deal, but obviously Livingston are owned by the Ford family, and like I've heard people say about how they spend like $500,000 or like £1 million on like these cryo chambers for like post-match recovery or whatever. It's just completely mad what's going on over there. But interesting thing will be the fact is like it's not Davy Martindale for the first time in about 5 years or something like that.
It is though, isn't it? It is though.
It feels about like COVID time that Davy Martindale was not in the managerial hot seat. Of course, he is the director of football. Now he's not dead, but Glenn Whelan is the chosen manager. He's never had a managerial job. He's been caretaker a couple of times at Wigan. I am intrigued to see how this goes, but of course, they finished third in their League Cup group with Partick and Steny, losing both those games on penalties. So, it's like, just by default of being the team that's come down from the Premiership, they're probably going to be in the title fight, but I am not entirely convinced by it. Like, there's nothing about them stands out to me as title contenders. Kieran, you've actually watched them this season because obviously you went to the game in League Cup. What do you have to say about Livingston?
Well, obviously they just kind of came off the back of a pretty brutal season, obviously following the promotion to the top flight, and then obviously they come straight back down. Obviously get rid of Martindale, and they now have Glenn Whelan as manager. So wait to see how that goes. Obviously they had a massive clear out as well, which you kind of would expect for a team that's just kind of came down. That's just gotten relegated. But I mean, when we played them in the League Cup, they looked not that bad, but you could still tell they had that quality. You could still tell they were a recently relegated team. You know what I mean? But from the top flight. But at the same time, they weren't anything. I wouldn't say they were anything that special. I felt we matched them pretty well, all over the park that day, and obviously beat them in penalties, which is mental. I think it's the second time I've seen Thistle win a penalty shootout in my time supporting Thistle, so that was pretty good to witness that. But I think it's it'll be daft to say that they won't be right up there, challenging for the title, challenging for promotion straight back to the top flight the first time asking. Obviously, they're, as you said there, Callum, they're kind of owned by the Ford family, so they're obviously well backed. They've obviously got a good bit of money behind them, so they're obviously not afraid to splash the cash to get back up to the top flight. But I mean, I don't think there'll be any real surprises here. I think I've got them right up there.
So Enzo, you got anything to add on, Livy?
Yeah, they've signed a really weird mix of guys who've had a lot of success at this level before. Guys like Jordan Docherty, Wilkie, Cammy McPherson. If he can, find a way to stay away from all these right wing marches that are happening these days.
Imagine that.
And then they've also signed.
Player misses a game on Football Manager. You just get the unavailable. It's in the streets of Glasgow for whatever reason.
Yeah, and then they've also signed some really out there players. Like obviously you touched on that Van Hoven guy, and then the Macedonian guy whose name I've briefly forgotten. I don't know. Like Livingston to me are one of the weirdest clubs in Scotland for so many reasons. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised with them winning the league or with them finishing like 7th or something like that. I just don't know what to expect. There's no way they're not trimming a bit of fat here. That squad is far too big. Like it's far too big. There's got to be a few players on the way out one way or another. I cannot believe they've managed to hang on to Jerome Prior. Like he's an unbelievable goalkeeper. The last time he was in, I didn't really watch Livingston much last season, to be fair. Obviously, why would I? But he was unbelievable the last time they were in this division. I think he's a fantastic goalkeeper, and he'll probably be maybe the best keeper in this league yet again. So, I don't know. They're a weird club. Like, what is Martindale's influence? Is he still going to have any sort of control over the situation? If Glenn Whelan, like, let's say they do have a shaky start, like, how quick will they be to part with Glenn Whelan? That's also an interesting appointment, certainly. Don't know whether he's going to be good because I just don't know much about what he is as a manager and what he's done before. I do think, just like pragmatically thinking and looking at it, I am erring more on the side of them having a very, very good season, to be honest with you. But time will tell. It's just such like every time I scroll through that squad, I just look at it and go, "What the fuck is this?" And in the best way possible, potentially, I would say. I mean, who knows? I really don't know.
Would it be completely out there to say there's a bit of a Ross County vibe about them? Just like having that big
that's.
But it's like, I don't think it would happen. But it's like, I mean, evidently Ross County.
I don't think so.
Down, but it's like just with the fact that you have Morton and another team that we'll get onto later just being down there, it's like there's no chance that they'll go down. But that you can see them just somehow just ending up outside of the playoffs even. But
yeah, it's possible.
That's highly unlikely. I'd put that in the high. They're going to be in a title fight at a minimum, almost certainly. But yeah, it's just a very weird squad they have. Speaking of weird, we go to our next team, and that is Partick Thistle.
Hold on. You're going to need to explain that association. Is that you just talking about Kieran, or are you talking about them as a club in general?
Aye.
No comment.
You're right either way, Callum. Don't worry about it.
I would like to be let back into months. Yeah, Partick Thistle. We'll go through their transfers. You've got Josh Clark. Hold on a minute.
In and out.
I was going to say his permanent. But then he's gone to Doncaster Rovers. I have no idea what's going on there. But yes, other actual signings that they have made who have stuck around. You've got Ben Dempsey from Ayr, Seb Draws from Queen's Park, Ewan Henderson from Airdrie, Ethan Ingram, his loan's been made permanent from Dundee, Ben McPherson, his loan's been made permanent from Celtic, and he's actually stuck around. Ossian Smith has joined permanently from St Mirren, and Liam McFarlane has joined on loan from Hearts, whereas the outgoings, Logan Chalmers is away to St Johnstone, Xander McKenzie, his loan's been made permanent at Queen of South, Scott Martin, same at Queen's Park, Luke Macbeth has joined Ayr United, Cal Turner has joined Raith Rovers, Josh Clark, as mentioned, his loan to Doncaster Rovers, Liam Mooney has joined Clyde on loan, Fraser Taylor, his loan at St Mirren ended, whilst leaving on a free have Shay Campbell and Daniel Mackay, and then a big question mark over Ben Stanley because apparently he had signed for Falkirk, but then there was a sort of he's what 21.
Yeah, it's the development fee stuff,
Yeah,
isn't it? I think
it's the
Yeah.
compensation development fee that they just couldn't agree on. Apparently, Falkirk wanted to like reduce it, but gave you guys Aggie-Man, and it's like they
Hmm.
rejected that, and then like Stanley got fed up and like sacked his agent or something. Again, it's just utterly it's a very strange situation. Instead of allowing me to comment first, Kieran, of course, this is your club, so I will let you give a summary of Partick Thistle.
I so as you said, I think we've recruited. So looking at the players that were signed, that were brought in, I think we've recruited really well. I think the standouts there are Ethan Ingram, Ocean Smith, both fantastic players. Ethan Ingram, absolutely fantastic last season. I thought he was very solid at the back, and I think he was a big miss in the playoffs. I felt Ocean Smith as well. I thought he was good. I think he kind of blew hot and cold at times for me, but you could still tell the talent was there. So that's a massive coup for us. But as well as that, Aidan Fitzpatrick signing a contract extension as well is huge. He was one that we thought we kind of resigned ourselves to losing, as well as Logan Chalmers, which obviously is away to St Johnson now. But Aidan Fitzpatrick was the one that was like, right, we've resigned ourselves to losing him, and we've managed to sign him on a 1 year deal, a 1 year extension, which is absolutely fantastic. I don't know how we've managed that. But last season, obviously, unfortunate not to win the league, I felt. We ran St Johnson very close, but ultimately they ran out they kind of fell short of it, and St Johnson deservedly won the league. And then obviously had our hearts broken in the playoffs, as always. So there was no change there.
I don't think your
But
heart's really broken at this point, considering you've lost in the playoffs for what, like 6 years in a row now, or something like that.
it hurts. It hurts every time, Cal. It hurts every time. But I thought we looked pretty decent in pre-season. Obviously, I actually didn't manage to get to any of the pre-season games, but I went to 3 out of 4 of the League Cup games, and I felt we looked pretty sharp. Looked pretty good. Um, and I think we got 2 clean sheets as well. We had Burden in goals as well, which was our backup. But obviously, what happened with Josh Clark, we were forced to play him, and I felt he played pretty well. And then we brought in Liam McFarlane, who people were kind of giving him a hard time a wee bit after the Steny game. But I mean, he's only played 1 game. Like, I think people have just got to chill out a wee bit. But we're coming into this season in a lot better shape than what we were last season. I remember coming on this pod and last season, and it was pretty bad that the club was in a bit of turmoil a wee bit. But obviously we managed to kind of, well, we did exceed a lot of people's expectations, and especially a lot of Thistle fans' expectations for how we finished this season. But I think we'll be right up there challenging. I don't know what you think, but I think we will be. I think we'll be one of them right up there challenging for promotion this season. Just by the squad we've kept and the additions we've made. I think thought about Seb Rost. I think he's fantastic. You said he was quite frustrating, but I think he's just his willingness to take on a player, Enzo.
Yeah.
I think he's looked good. Ewan Henderson's another one as well who's looked pretty good in the League Cup. Obviously, I know League Cup is pretty. You can't really take much for that, but it's still still competitive football at the end of the day.
That's what
So
I had
I'm
on
pretty positive.
Henderson. That's what I had on Ewan Henderson about how I just remember saying at the end of last season, it's like when Edry went down, it's like for like the past couple of years, they've been pretty dreadful, and it's like there was like that
Mhm.
first season where they were lucky to not get relegated, and it's like looking through the Edgy squad of those 2 seasons, like it was a case of just maybe like 4 or 5 players who are actually of a championship standard that were in that Edgy squad. Ewan Henderson was absolutely one of them. He was absolutely at
Mhm.
the top end of that sort of bracket. So, Thistle getting him is a really good sign. But yeah, I'll let you go back on to what you were saying.
I know. I think that's pretty much me done, to be honest. But I just think with the recruitment we've made again, I think Barakoff is again. He's getting his money's worth. I think he's proved to be fantastic in his role as well. But obviously, we can't really.
Now that he's actually got a full summer being in the hospital last year.
Yeah, aye. But obviously we can't really not credit Wilson and Ray as well for their part to play in that side of things. But I think I'm pretty positive heading into this season, which I don't like because normally when I head into a season positively, and feeling that we're going to do something, the opposite happens. So, hopefully that's not the case. But I'm really looking forward to this season.
It's very much a case of, like I was saying about Livingston, how you feel like when a club like Livingston is the one that comes down, you feel like, okay, here's a real opportunity for someone who's who's been in Championship for a while to go and make a title bid. And I feel like this is finally Thistle's year. But I think this is it. They were really good last season, and yeah, it's like the signings they've made have been really good. And most importantly, as well, I think Fitzpatrick, his contract was up in the summer, and they managed to keep him.
Mm-hmm.
That's really important. Like, we see how important he is. Like 90% of the time, he's Thistle's main outlet, pretty much. So, yeah,
I pretty much. I just to touch. Sorry, Callum, on you go.
Yeah, I just think this is it. This is it. This is where Thistle finally win the league and get themselves in the Premiership after 10 years, I think, of being outside of the top flight.
20 years according to Cal, if you see these messages in the chat. But I know definitely the last time we were in there was the last time we were in league was 18, so it was 2018. Sorry, so 8 years I want to say now. It's kind of a long time. It's been a long time kind of coming. So who knows? We'll wait and see. I don't really want to get ahead of myself too early. But saying that. We'll just wait to our predictions, shall we? But looking forward to the season and can't wait. I don't know if Enzo's getting to add about Thistle or draws or anything like that.
Thistle will definitely be in a title challenge this season. I don't think many people would think otherwise. Realistically, I think one thing's pretty clear is that Thistle have a bit of cash to chuck around now. Maybe that they haven't done in previous seasons as well. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been getting guys like Fitzpatrick back. They probably wouldn't have been able to lock down the likes of Ocean Smith, that might have had offers elsewhere. I mean, I maybe it's just because in the games that I've seen him play, wasn't that I'm maybe less convinced by Smith than some people are, but Seb Draws, for example, as well. I think Seb Draws is a good player. I've said this for a while. I think that he's on the cusp of becoming a great player. And I think Mark Wilson, I think Sean Crichton as well, to be fair, because he improved a lot under him. But I think Mark Wilson, similarly, is the kind of manager that has got the ability to take him to the next level. I don't like Ewan Henderson, to be honest with you. I've said this for a long time. Again, he played for us, and I hated him when he played for us. So that's obviously it's going to influence my bias. I found it interesting though, because even at the end of last season, despite the fact they scored a lot of goals for them, I felt like Airdrie fans still wanted rid of Ewan Henderson, which I think is quite telling. But again, Wilson's clearly the kind of guy that is able to get the most out of his players, and I think if he can figure out what maybe Henderson's attitude issues or whatever it is, I think you'll figure out. Thistle are going to.
I think that was Airdrie fans. Their biggest issue was his attitude problems, but I think when you've got Wilson and Ray there, that won't stick with them. That they won't have that kind of thing. So but I like. I've not seen Dempsey yet, so it'll be interesting to see him. That's another player who Ayr fans have been kind of talking about how overrated he is. He's probably the most overrated player at Ayr they've seen, and I'm like,
he's overrated now that he's left.
Yeah, that was the thing. We signed Paddy Redden last year, and we got the same thing for Ayr fans, and I think Josh Clark as well saying, "Oh, he's shite, he's this and that, he's rubbish." And Paddy Redden ended up being probably one of our more consistent players last season. Unfortunate not to pick up player of the season at the end, I felt, but Aye. So it'll be interesting to see. Once I think Ingram as well, still on the cusp. I think he's I think he picked up an injury, he picked up a knock towards the end of the season last year, and I think Dempsey's still kind of recovering through one as well. So they've not been in the squads as of yet. So it'll be interesting to see them when they're back up to full fitness. But I think Ingram, if it's not even Fitzpatrick, I think Ingram's the pick of the bunch in terms of recruitment. That was a fantastic coup for us. And I look forward to the season ahead.
Just a couple more things before we move away from this. So I think obviously the Josh Clark situation was really weird, but I've never heard anyone who's watched him say a bad word about Liam McFarlane, to be honest with you. Like, I know that he had a great season at, I think it was East Fife, and then he moved up to Alloa last season, and he seems to just be gradually, kind of moving up the leagues, and it seems as though Hearts have really high expectations for him longer term. And I know that Clark did have a good season for Thistle, but I don't think McFarlane. I certainly don't think he's going to be the reason for Thistle dropping points or anything like that. Or certainly not consistently either. The one renewal that did leave me slightly perplexed a little bit was Gary Mackay-Steven, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Assuming he's not coming at significant cost or whatever, fair enough, I suppose.
I think it's a signing for the dressing room more than anything else. But I mean, again, you can't really take much out of a pre-season game against Brecon City or Forfar, for example. But it looked really sharp. Obviously, again, it's a case of whether he keeps himself fit, because that's his biggest issue. Is Mackay-Steven's fitness. And whether he can last a full 90. Personally, I think he can last a full 60, 70, and then he's looking dead on his feet. But I think I was that disappointed with that extension, to be honest. I think last season it looked not bad. I think, again, fitness was a major issue, but I think I wasn't bored with that at all. That extension, and he's looked sharp. So as long as he keeps himself fit, then it's a great addition to have in your team.
Yeah, I was going to say about Ethan Ingram. I was like, some of the Dundee fans were a bit disappointed he's been allowed to go permanently, which I find interesting because clearly he had a good spell last season. So I can imagine he'll kick on as well going into this new campaign. Right, next up we have got a trip to the south side of Glasgow now, where it is Queen's Park. Their transfers in are Jack Hamilton from Raith Rovers, Scott Martin, his loan's been made permanent from Thistle, David Mitchell has joined from Ayr United, Ben Brannan has joined on loan from Kilmarnock, Zebedee Lawson, Aidan McCallion and Lewis Stewart have all joined on co-op loans from Rangers. Whilst on the outgoings, we have Jamie Bradley joining from Clyde, going to Clyde. Seb Draws going to Thistle, Henry Fieldson joining St Mirren, Callum Ferry has joined Kilmarnock, Roddy McGregor to Inverness, McLeish to Airdrie, Grant Savory to Morton, Tim Scott to East Kilbride, Ricky Wall to Edinburgh City, Joshua Sowa to Dumbarton on loan, whilst Michael Colley, Aidan McGinley and Nicola Ujda, how would you say his name? They're away on Ujda. So yeah, Enzo, I'll just let you go through your team then.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's really important to recognise is that, yes, maybe not the longest list of incomings that you'll see in the division this season, but we going into the off season, I think we had 2 players under contract. So the fact that we've managed to re-sign guys like Ewan Murray, who won our Player of the Year, Matty Shields, who had offers from other clubs in the division, the fact that we managed to get Scott Martin in on a permanent deal, Aidan Conley on a 2-year contract, Michael Ruth's coming back for another year. I could go through the whole squad. I'm not going to do that because I would literally be going through the entire squad. That is no doubt taking up a significant amount of time and effort from the club, and they deserve a huge amount of credit from that. The 2 big losses for me are Henry Fieldson and Callum Ferry. Henry Fieldson was one of the best left backs in the division last season. He is a very, very talented young player. Callum Ferry had made 199 appearances for Queen's Park. I'm genuinely gutted to see him go, even just beyond what it means for us on the park. I love Callum Ferry. He's one of my favourite Queen's Park players in a long, long time. I'm just sad to see both of those guys go, in particular Cal Ferry. But at the end of the day, like, you can't begrudge a 21-year-old boy a move to St Mirren. You can't begrudge a 28-year-old goalkeeper the opportunity to go and have a crack at it in the Premiership. And they leave heroes, so it is what it is. In terms of our incomings, though, look, Jack Hamilton, I know you don't particularly rate him, Callum, but he did a great pre-season so far. He scored a great header against Kelty, an even better header against Aberdeen. And I'm quite excited to see what he can do. Scott Martin, in the second half of last season, was a huge... I mean, his contributions when he came in from Thistle last season, it was massive for us. We had, and people probably forget this, but in the from match day 18 or 19 to the end of the season, we had the fourth best record in the Championship last season. Scott Martin was a huge part of that. David Mitchell, I mean, if he plays, and I don't know if he will play because Jack Wills, who's been at the club for a few years and hasn't really played a huge amount of first team football, he's played in all the League Cup group stage games. Granted, David Mitchell he was out with like kind of concussion protocol for a while. I don't know which of them is ultimately going to be our first choice goalkeeper this season. My hope is that I don't think either of them are going to be spectacular, but I also don't think they're going to be chucking goals into their own net too frequently for it to matter that much. But like obviously we're used to a keeper like Cal Ferry that can pull out, he can pull, you know better than anyone, Callum, he can pull the absolute spectacular out of his arse, especially against Wraith Rovers.
Ben Brannan. It's like the moment I'd seen he'd left, my immediate reaction was thank fuck. I don't have to deal with
he always turns into prime Gigi Buffon against Wraith. It's incredible. And then like you've got Ben Brannan and on loan from Kilmarnock. He's looked really, really solid. He's had a couple of loan spells at Inverness in League One prior to coming to us. I'm kind of excited to see what he can do. And then we've got the cooperative agreement with Rangers, Lewis Stewart, who was one of the best players in League One last season. And if I get that some people don't like these cooperative agreements, especially when you're kind of have this formal association with one of Celtic or Rangers, I understand that. Lewis Stewart was one of the best players in League One last season. He's looked really, really good for us so far as well. We're not in a position where we can knock back 3 or 4 players for nothing. Aidan McCallion, a defensive midfielder, he's maybe not shown quite as much as Lewis Stewart has. There's still room for another player in on the cooperative agreement from Rangers, and then on top of that, we've also got Zebedee Lawson in, who seems to be a winger. I think he can play either on the right or the left. He came off the bench against Queen of the South on Saturday there, and played an unbelievable through ball through to Matty Shields for our third goal. I think he looks really, really. I mean, for a 17-year-old, he looks incredible. I think we're in a good place. Genuinely, I would like a little bit more depth at the back. Purely because if someone like Shields or Murray picks up a knock, or maybe reliant on Ricky Lamy, who's not the worst player in the world, but he's getting up there a wee bit in age, and I would like to see a wee bit more depth at the back ideally, but I'm not sure how realistic that is at this stage. We don't have loads and loads of funds to be chucking about on the squad. So we'll see. But my expectations for this season, look, we talked about this a bit earlier on. Like, there's a lot of predictions flying about online on Pine Ball and on Twitter and elsewhere. I don't think we're going to be in a relegation scrap this season. I think we have one of the best managers in the division in Sean Crichton. And I think if he can, even a similar sort of finish to last season would have bigger clubs sniffing about him. Realistically, I think he's going to go on longer term to have a fantastic career. Another coup, by the way, was getting him signed up for another year. That was something I didn't touch on there. It's going to come down to keeping everyone fit. It's going to come down to not picking up too many injuries. It's going to come down to maybe guys like Michael Ruth kicking on a little bit this season too, because he was unfortunate to miss a huge amount of last season after picking up an injury really, really early on in the year. I think we'll be fine. Like I look at our squad and I think we've got great attacking options. I think we've got a really solid midfield. Louis Longridge had his best season for us ever. He's been at this for years. Last season was the best season he's ever had for us. And like I genuinely believe the absolute worst case scenario, if things really do go to shit, absolute worst case scenario is 8th for us. I do not think we're going to finish in the bottom 2. And somebody might clip that, and maybe I'll hear it back again in 10 months' time when we finish bottom of the table. I just can't see it. I think there's too much there in terms of attacking quality and maybe more importantly the manager. And I have full faith in them to go out and have another really good season ultimately.
I was going to say is that I can't wait for the Queen's Park admin to start clipping up people again, and then they have to delete the video
again.
if they do get relegated. But, yeah,
you never see it though.
Oh, I saw it. I'm in there.
No, but you won't see it if he does it again, right, and then we get relegated anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say, but yeah, it's like Queen's Park. It's like considering the absolute madness that was the previous summer, and as you were saying about them having only 2 players contracted at the end of the season, it's been a really good job. What's been done here with like keeping a majority of like your good players and bringing in some players as well. It's like, of course, I'm going to mention Jack Hamilton, where it was, it's like he was good for in that Murray Magic season, but then outside of that, he was just a bit rubbish. I was fed up with him by the end. It's like you could tell with Ennis Cameron in that final third. I think he even matched or overtook Jack Hamilton's goal tally, and that's including a hat-trick against Queen's Park. So
yeah, of course, I remember that
game. Doubts about him, but as you say, he has done pretty well in this League Cup and pre-season so far. So if he does well, then fair play to him, because by all accounts he's a good lad. So
I think he's a bit of a confidence player, and I think he maybe lost a lot of his confidence last season, the season before. Like, his injuries too.
Yeah, it's like it was injuries and then just complete turmoil. I probably just like threw him off and then just not playing to whatever strengths he has. But yeah, it's like Scott Martin, as you say, he was really good last season, so getting him on a permanent is a good deal there.
On a 2-year deal as well, surprisingly.
Yeah. David Mitchell as a championship goalkeeper is fine. Like that's all I can really say about him. He's just fine.
Yeah, I agree with that.
In regards to the co-op loan, I just want to say I'm incredibly jealous of the fact that you've got 3 players who look actually good. Whereas last year,
well, one of them is a normal loan. So one of them is our Paul Incio, who you're not getting back, by the way, Callum.
I know.
But one of them is our equivalent of Paul Incio, because he's separate to the co-op loan, but obviously they're giving us someone alongside him. And there's still scope for one other player to come in. But Lewis Stewart looks fantastic. So
who's the one that's from Rangers but not a co-op loan?
Zebedee Lawson.
Oh, is he? Oh, it's just because he's listed as a co-op loan. I'm going to blame.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
I'm blaming Mary's Toko for that, because I have just straight.
He's English.
I've copied.
He's English. He's not eligible as a co-op loan.
Just his transfers.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like the fact that you've got Lewis Stewart, as you say, one of the best League One players. Aidan McCallion, I don't know too much about him, but it's like the fact that you've got more than one player and it's not Josh Gentles is making me a bit jealous, because like that's all we got. We got Josh Gentles for half a season and he did fuck all. So yeah, that's it all in regards to me and the Rangers co-op loan. But yeah, as you were saying, it's like Callum Ferry is going to be the big miss for you guys, not for me. I was like, thank fuck I don't have to deal with him this season. I'm honest. Is it the fact he went to Kilmarnock? I didn't exactly. I think I forgot about it. I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like I turned up at Auchinleck for the game against Killian. I just see Callum Ferry and go, I'm just like, right, I'm just going home. But
he did play. He played against Hamilton, but I don't know if he played against Wraith, did he?
He didn't. No, it was Stryek who played for Killian that game. But where's it going with this? Yeah, is it the fact that you said that Callum Ferry played 199 games has irritated me? Like, there's one more.
Mate, one more game. Exactly. One more game. That's all it takes.
Have like some sort of agreement with Kilmarnock, I guess. One more competitive game and then he can go. Just get him in the 200 club, that whole sort of thing. But yeah, it's like, as you say, it's like Queen's Park are going to be completely fine. Like I alluded it.
Not everyone agrees with you. Not everyone agrees with you, Callum. And I think a lot of people think. I think, look, people maybe who are slightly less informed on like a lot of the intricacies of the teams in this division. People with a life is essentially what I'm saying, not people that dedicate far too much of their time and effort to following the Scottish Championship. Maybe just the last thing they've really heard about us is, Willie Hockey's pulled his money and we're skint and we're maybe on the cusp of going part-time. And I don't think people are maybe aware of the fact that we've just started handing out 2-year permanent contracts again and things like that. But it is what it is. Like I'm happy enough for people to have that view. Because then, if they're proven right, then I can just shut up. But if I can prove them wrong, then that'll be quite fun.
I think we're right in saying that. What is it? Hoy owns the City Group, doesn't he? And like they're still.
He does, yes.
And it's like, whilst it's not to the same level, I think they're still like sponsors because like it is a
Well,
City.
they're still,
brand and they're still front of shirt sponsors.
yes.
But it's
Yeah,
like
they're
this
still
time
shirt
we've had to
sponsors.
like cut back a whole lot of stuff off field
A
for
lot.
the academy and not that.
But this is going to be an interesting season for the off the field stuff as well. Obviously, I can't go into too much detail because, well, to be fair, nobody really knows for certain. But there are a lot of rumours around the club's future in terms of maybe like ownership and what's going to happen with Lesser Hampden longer term or whatever. So I think that's there's going to be a lot of stuff, hopefully positive stuff coming out over the next kind of 6 to 8 months about where we're going to be longer term as a club. But I'm personally quite, I'm cautiously optimistic about it all.
Kieran, what are your thoughts on Queen's Park going into this season then?
Well, obviously looking back to last season, they ended the season pretty positively, you could say. Obviously, despite being in a bit of trouble start round the start till January, obviously they lost Josh Fowler, and that was we were like, well, that was that, but they're going to go down. That's them I set to go down, but it worked the complete opposite, didn't it? And they managed to stay up. But obviously, they were a team that were for like I think it wasn't that long, but it was like for 2 or 3 weeks. Like they were looking on the up. They were like starting to look up at. I know Enzo was kind of a lot more diplomatic about it, but they were a team that were looking towards maybe challenging for a playoff
We weren't
spot.
a million miles off.
Yeah, no, but obviously, at in the end, they stayed up comfortably, and I think that's what yous were taking, and I think again this season, I think that's similarly where you will be. I think they will stay up. I don't think they'll be in any trouble this season. I think there's far more worse teams in the division. And I think honestly, I think if Queens Park fans were offered that at the start of this season, I think you would take that.
I would still take eighth. If you give me the opportunity to take eighth, I'd probably
Yeah.
still bite your hand off for it. But I just think there's a possibility that this team can do a wee bit more. Yeah, fair enough.
Definitely, and I'm still on board with the Sean Crichton hype train as well. The fact that you've kept him as well, that's massive as well. I think that'll have a big part to play in where Queens Park are this season, how high they'll finish up this season. I I think if he has one more good season, I think there'll be a lot of clubs sniffing about him. Potentially, I'm surprised there wasn't any sniffing about him after last season, but I think you'll be fine. I think you'll be safe.
Right, so with Queen's Park done, it is time for the one we've all been waiting for, and that is, of course, Reef Rovers. I should probably add Scottish Challenge Cup winners, Reef Rovers. Just got to put that at the front there. Our signings this season, it's been quite a change in personnel, which is a bit different to the last few years, but incomings, we've got Zach Delaney coming in from Morton, Anton Dowds and George Oakley join from Man United, Aaron Lyle joins from Ross County, Ross Millen from Inverness, John Robertson from East Kilbride, Charlie Telfer from Airdrie, Kyle Turner from Partick Thistle, and Luke Armstrong is on loan from Cardiff City. Outgoings, meanwhile, and there is a fair amount of them. Sean Byrne has gone to Montrose, Richard Chin has gone to Ross County for an undisclosed fee, RIP my Malaysian king. Jordan Doherty has gone to Livingston. Aidan Glavin has gone to Linfield. Jack Hamilton, as mentioned, has gone to Queen's Park. Callum Hanna has joined Kelty Hearts. Ross Matthews has gone to Bentley Greens in the Victoria Premier League down in Australia. Josh Mullen has gone to Stirling Albion. Ennis Cameron has returned to Barrow on loan. At the end of his loan, unfortunately, I don't see us getting him again. Paul Enzio, his loan has ended and he's back at Rangers and looks set to go to St Mirren, which has made me very sad. Darragh O'Connor, he returned to York City. Ewan Wilson returned to Motherwell, and Andy Winter returned to Livingston and then has gone to Grove. As mentioned, a bit weird this summer, just with the amount of changes because it's been used to a pretty stable first 11 at a minimum, really. So, yeah, it's a clear out that was needed. Saying that, it was a good laugh at the end of the season when John Sim appeared for like the first time in forever and just basically came out and said, "Yeah, we were almost in administration in February." That was a good laugh to hear, and obviously the fact that we could have had a "What is going on at Reef Rovers" video in my collection. My word, what a time that would have been for everyone else. But yeah, I don't think we'll be any sort of trouble at all like that this season, especially when you consider we'll have the cup money from Aberdeen away. Obviously, we won the Challenge Cup last season. But in regards to the squad that we have, it just screams like the most average championship team you'll ever see. Like, it's such an average championship squad. But the thing is, it's like the games in this preseason that I have and that I have been able to make were the first friendly against Hamilton, where I booed them off at halftime because we were shocking, but then we were actually pretty good in the second half. I don't care if it's a first friendly. I'm setting standards at this club.
I mean, that's outrageous. That is outrageous. I respect it.
Exactly. Look, we are a very moany bunch of fans, so I'm just getting the new players used to it. You know, that's just sort of
Fair enough.
yeah.
I respect that.
Exactly. And then I went to the game against Kelly down at Auchinleck, so I've still not ticked off Rugby Park. But I was actually quite impressed. We actually should have won that game. Stryek made an incredible save from a Lewis Vaughan header to keep that one 0-0, and then of course we did end up losing on penalties. And the other game that I went to was the friendly last week against Hearts, where again I was impressed. It's like we could have. It's like a 0-0 would have been a fair result, but even like a 1-1 or something like that, like we deserved at least a goal. It's like the common theme of like the games that I've been to have been a case of I've been impressed with us, but then the games that I've not been to in this League Cup, Elgin we won 3-1, so it's like we looked pretty good in that one after watching the highlights. And then you've got Hamilton and Peterhead where we were apparently a bit drab, but it's like we played basically the same starting 11 for those 4 games in like 10 days, 10, 11 days or something like that. So we're starting off with an injury crisis. God, it's a good laugh being a Rafe fan, honestly. It's just every season there's just somehow like an injury crisis at like the start of the season. It's just, yeah, I think of the players missing for this upcoming, like at least until I think the derby at the latest, we're missing Scott Brown, Paul Hanlon, Lewis Vaughan, George Oakley, and I can't remember if Stevenson and Fordyce are going to be injured or not for the Stellsmuir game. Like I said, there's a lot to go through. It's just a case of going forward. I think we're looking pretty good. John Robertson is a fun one to watch in that he's not afraid of anything. He's not afraid of anyone. He will do what he wants. He will shoot from outside the box. He will take that opportunity or whatever, but he's just not got that goal yet. But I think it's a case of once he gets that goal, it's just going to start flowing. I really feel that with him. Kai Montague, he was here last season. He really came into his own stride towards the end of last season, and I think he's been brilliant in the games that I've seen him in. So I think he's going to be a young player to watch out for because he is only 21. And Lewis Vaughan, when he's not injured, which is a big question because he's injured already, but he's been pretty good as well. And like Charlie Telfer is a weird one. I've actually liked what I've seen from him. Same with Aaron Lyle. Ross Millen has been like the Ross. It's like he wasn't great at Inverness, but then he's come back here and he's returned to the Ross Millen that I remember watching a few years back before he got sent into the shadow realm by Ian Murray for some sort of disagreement. And then Luke Armstrong, he's a backup goalkeeper and he's actually really good, which is promising because we all know Josh Ray's a good goalkeeper. He's a pretty good championship goalkeeper, but to have a pretty good championship goalkeeper as a backup as well is actually pretty reassuring, just in case anything happens to him. Because I think Aidan Glavin, from what I remember, his only competitive game last season was Aki's in the Challenge Cup where we won 5-2, and it's like the 2 goals that he conceded were both his fault, and he just didn't look comfortable at this level. So I'm. It's just a case of obviously there's still a month to go, and it's like I was still holding out hope of Paul Enzio coming back because that it's like if Paul Enzio had joined, I'd just been going off about us winning the league. I'll be honest, but yeah, I think it's just a case of trying to get some defensive personnel in because, as I mentioned, like that friendly against Hearts, we had a back line that was all full backs, but the thing is, at least um, it's like Jay Rowe is proven to be competent at centre back, and Zach Delaney can play at centre back. Zach Delaney is one of the weirdest signings because it's like I remember when it got announced, it was just clowned on immediately by Bolton fans. But the thing is, he's been going forward, he's looked decent, and defensively, he's been fine. So the thing is like as a left back, he'll be back up to Stevenson, who is still just like an absolute freak of nature at his age. So it is a case of like I'm fine with him, but I do really want to get like at least another centre back in. But yeah, I think we're going into this game against Sinners with maybe like 4 players on the bench, so that's going to be a good laugh. Um, Kieran, do you have any thoughts on Rafe?
Well, I think last year you could say it was a pretty topsy turvy last season. Pretty underwhelming to say the least. For Rafe, they look to be in a spot aboard in about February and March. I remember you came in here, you came on the pod and saying that you were close to hitting the panic button, and then I think I can't remember who beat you. I don't know if it was Airdrie or you might have beat Airdrie, but I can't remember. But I remember that you were like,
It was Dunfermline, but I was just like,
yeah,
we're
Dunfermline,
fucked. It was the 3-0
yeah,
defeat to Dunfermline. I was like, oh god, we're fucked. And then it just
aye,
completely turned it
and
around.
yeah. But then obviously, as you said there, you just managed to kind of dig yourself out the rut, and stay up and kind of finish the season, out of danger pretty much. I thought that's pretty much, which was similar to Ayr United, you could say last season as well. But I think you'll be fine this season. I think you'll be all right. I think you just kind of need to wait and see what happens with Emery. See if he can get a tune out of these players. Obviously, he's got his pre-season now, and he's got another transfer window under his belt there. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But I think you've recruited fairly decently over the summer. All the players are pretty good. George Oakley, Anton Dowds, as much as they're a walking, talking signal, I think they're still pretty good players to have at this level.
Our entire squad is a walking, talking signal.
Yeah, aye, pretty much. But obviously as well, John Robertson. It'll be interesting to see how he gets on as well. But I think you'll have a more successful season than last season. I think you could be kind of right in the playoff mix kind of thing. So I think you'll be fine. Nah, I don't think you'll have a bad a season as last year as
Okay,
last season.
I think we'll have the exact same season as last year where we finish fifth but we win the Challenge Cup because I mean like the Challenge Cup is basically our trophy at this point, seeing as we've won it 4 times, 3 times in the last 5 years or something stupid like that. But yeah, I think we will have a much better season than last time around. I do think we will be a lot more consistent and actually pushing for the playoffs. My main hope is the fact that we score more than 9 goals away from home. Like, that was horrible. It's like
That shouldn't be hard.
I went to look. My standards are through the floor at this point. Honestly, there's a reason why I'm as delusional or as like happy as I am on the podcast, and it's because my standards are so low. But yeah, it's like I went to most of those away games, and I think, oh god, it's like we had the worst away record in the league last season. I think only maybe we might have been above Ross County in that regard, but yeah, it was just horrible. Like I think we won one of our last 13 away games. It was just bad. So hopefully that's a bit better. And it's like the home form we showed was fourth in the league. So it's like I say, just like it's as if it's like the easiest thing in the world that I can do it, but just fix the away form and it's like playoff push is there, and I do think it is there. It's just as long as we're not like turning up to a game against Livingston with a squad of 12, then I think we'll be I think we'll be up in that sort of playoff push contention, but I'm not entirely getting my hopes up over it. Enzo, do you have anything?
Aye. I mean, I think Wraith are the most bang on fifth, sixth place team in the championship, to be honest with you. Like, yes, I agree that if things click and things go well, fourth is absolutely not out of the question. I guess at that point it's a case of who are you dislodging from those places, because I think most people are looking at the four teams that we've talked about already that we think will be in there. But it's certainly not impossible. And I think like there's a couple of signings in there that I on paper wasn't that impressed with. Like Zach Delaney put on. So I'm going to be honest with you. I remember a game at Lesser Hampden last season where Zach Delaney put in, and I'm not exaggerating, the worst performance I've ever seen a left back put in since we got promoted to the championship. At least defensively, anyway. He was shockingly bad that day. But by all accounts, he's decent going forward. It's his defensive capability that's maybe the problem. But do you know what? Like Dougie Emery's the kind of manager that gets a tune out of players that you don't always necessarily expect him to get a tune out of. So who knows? Telfer kind of surprised me a little bit too. Kyle Turner's a good player. Oakley, I don't know. I saw a bit of enthusiasm for that signing that I wasn't necessarily expecting when Wraith brought him in, but who knows? We'll see, assuming he's actually going to be fit. Wraith are not going to be in any bother at the bottom end of the table without a doubt. It's just not possible. And they're also probably not going to put in too much of a challenge for the very top spots. I think you're going to be in for a fairly bang average season, if I'm honest with you, Callum.
And I've completely accepted that. Like, it's amazing. It's like in my full SPFL prediction videos, I just say it's like, yeah, we got like the most average team possible they could get for the championship. But like you say, it's like Dougie Emery's the kind of manager who does get more out of players.
He does things you don't expect a lot of the time.
Like we can see, like it's like Morton under him. Like every season, we're predicted like 8th, 7th or 8th or whatever, and then he would always get them 5th or like near enough 5th, and like potential playoff push or whatever, like just fall short. But the thing is, like Morton were like right down there when it comes to budgets, and it's got even worse this season without him. So yeah, it's like I'm looking forward to this season to an extent, but it's like I don't have, it's like unlike previous seasons where I'm like, I think I've been spoiled by that Murray season. That spoiled me where I was just like, oh right, we're going to win the league, and it's like didn't happen. And Barry Robson came in. It's like, oh actually, we're going to make the playoffs. I can't wait for Emery to be sacked in November after being like 8th. But it won't happen. I don't see that happening. I think we'll just be completely fine. I think that's just where the expectations are for this season. They've just been right. Let's have a nice reset, nice stable season, 5th, 6th, something like that. Easy days. That's where I think we're at. Kieran, do you have anything else to add before we move on?
No, I think we've pretty much just hit the nail on the head there. I think it will be a kind of. I think my predictions got them slightly higher than just a bang average season. But I think they'll be okay. I think they'll be fine. I think they'll be in and around that mix for the last, playoff spot kind of thing. I think they will be kind of up there, and it's just a whole case of keeping consistent. You know what I mean? Staying consistent. With their form, I think last year they were very, very inconsistent to the point where they did become consistent. They became consistently shit. And their away form, you need to, similar to us as well. Our away form was shocking last season. That ultimately was the difference between us not winning the league and St Johnstone winning the league. Similar to yours as well. Yeah.
Thistle had the best home record in the division, but then in like 4th and then like 12, 15 points less than St Johnstone away from home, and it's like so he went from like end of September to April without winning.
It was the end of September till March, I want to say, because we beat. I think it was Morton. Yeah,
it was Morton.
Yeah, Morton. I think it was February. I think it was about February, March time.
No, I feel like it was March. I think it was March, but yeah, I just think, it's like my minimum expectation is for me to not have a mental breakdown on this podcast at any point, considering it's like my wishes for Iranian missiles to rain down on Rosyth and whatnot last season just to end the season because it was just going a terrible, terrible direction. Just keep away from that sort of talk, and I'll be more than happy. But we will now get on to our final team final team preview, which is Stenhousemuir, playing at this level for the first time since the 1974-75 season, which is frankly a remarkable
Wasn't it
achievement.
longer than that?
Isn't
it longer than that?
No, this is the last time they played at Tier 2.
Oh, sorry,
It was the last season.
There were only two divisions. Yeah, okay.
So I think table in the old second division, which became the new second division because a bunch of teams got moved up to the first division, and
of course, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is Stenhousemuir's first time in the second tier since that time, and yeah, it's just good to have someone different in the league. But at what cost? Because their signings have been Scott Bright from St Johnstone, Robbie Hemphrey from East Fife, Lewis O'Donnell from Dundee United, Sam Young from Dunfermline, and then they got Matthew Gillies and Gus Stevenson on co-op loans from Hearts, Lewis Hodgkiss and Callum Penman have also joined on loan but from St Mirren. Outgoings, meanwhile, Finlay Gray's joined East Kilbride, Scott McGill has joined our Bro Ross Taylor at United, Zeke Cameron, Kane Richie Hosler, and have all left to go back to Dunfermline, and Kane Richie Hosler's left them. Ollie White has gone back to Motherwell, and Kelsey Ewan has retired. The thing is like when you look at the incomings and outcomings, nothing really stands out. I think player wise, Kane Richie Hosler and Scott McGill, they're going to be two misses because they actually have championship experience.
Sinclair was their best player last season as well.
Yeah, and
who's going to air?
Yeah, Scott McGill has experience at this level with, I think, Airdrie, but definitely with Wraith. And I just remember being like a pure utility player. I think he played in every position aside from in goal in that one season at us. But yeah, the big miss is definitely Gary Naismith because as mentioned in the air segment, he won Stenhousemuir their first ever league title. He got them into the playoffs the season before last, and then of course they were in the title fight with Inverness last season in League One. Managed to get them through the playoffs up to this level again, as mentioned, first time in about 50 years. But I don't know. It's like they just have. It's like Gary Naismith leaving Stenhousemuir has that vibe of when you're playing Football Manager and you take a team up from League Two up to the Championship or whatever, and then you leave to a bigger job, and it's like all that hard work you've done building up this League Two club into one that, in your eyes, under your management, could do like be solid in the Championship or whatever, just plummets down the divisions again. Yeah. I don't see that happening with Stenhousemuir. But just looking at that squad and whatever, if it wasn't for Morton being in like Chernobyl levels of meltdown, like it's the worst squad in the league, and it's like the replacement for Gary Naismith has been Marvin Bartley, and that just gives no inspiration whatsoever because he was a bit rubbish at Queen and herself. Like I think at Queen and herself when there was only 2 or 3 teams that were full time, including themselves. I think he finished 8th, 7th or 8th. Like they were just above. It's like they're on par with Annan. Like what? But yeah, after cleaning up himself, he just went back into coaching. But I think he does a good job. I think it's like the one I'm on about is like he is a good coach, but maybe as a manager, maybe not so good. I mean, he did take over from Martindale at Livingston at the end of last season, and they looked better, which wasn't difficult. But they got a win and like a bunch of draws here and there. But yeah, they just were rubbish. Stenhousemuir are definitely at best ninth. Like, as much as I would, it's like for the story of like, oh, this team's come through like the divisions like that, and it's like they're not backed by some like big money owner. They've got all this community stuff. It's like it would be nice story wise for City to do well, but I just just do not see it happening.
Yeah, I think just like obviously the Gary Naismith factor is huge, and then the players that they've lost. I'm shouting earlier. What I meant was Taylor, who's obviously gone to Ayr. I was getting his name mixed up there. So Ross Taylor's obviously gone to Ayr as well. I just I think had Gary Naismith still been at Stenhousemuir, and had they not lost some of their better players, I think it would still be a tough ask for them to come up and be competitive. Like Steny fans, I've seen comments from Stenhousemuir fans online suggesting that even if they were still in League One this season, they would probably still have a lower end budget. Never mind how that compares to the rest of the Championship. And there's a good feel about the club. Like I really like Stenhousemuir. I'm really excited to go back to Oakview. I've probably been to Oakview more than most people, purely because obviously we've been in the same division as them a lot over the years, but we also ground shared at Oakview for a year. So I actually briefly had a season ticket at Oakview. I saw us play Stirlingshire at Oakview as well back in the day when they were ground sharing there too. I know they had a good group stage in the League Cup. They won their group, which is phenomenal, really, considering there were two other, the two favourites for the Championship really were also in their group. I just think you can't take too much from the League Cup group stages. I've said that every year. Like, there's always teams that have a great group stage who then go on to have a terrible season, and also vice versa. They seem to have their squad is very, it's very kind of midfield heavy as well. I don't know what their expectation is in terms of where the goals are going to come from up front. I think I agree with your assessment though. Like I can't see them finishing any better than ninth, to be honest with you. I think I think over the course of the season they'll have a few scalps here and there. I think they'll surprise a few teams. They might start off quite sharply, for decent results early doors, but I think I just don't think. Well, yeah, that wasn't what I meant. But listen, you never know. But I just don't think over a championship season, 36 games, unless they get really really lucky and manage to bring in a few loan players towards the tail end of the window who end up being spectacular, I think it's going to be a real tough ask for them to. I mean, 10th is certainly on the cards. I think 9th is where I think that's where they'll be at best. I know that maybe I'm being harsh, but I think 9th is where they'll be at best.
Yeah, Kieran, you got anything to say about Steady?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with Enzo there. Obviously last year, just to touch on it, was an absolutely incredible season, and they very much did. I would think I would have been very gutted if they didn't get promoted after running Inverness so close, and especially I think they were working with a really restricted budget. I think they had a couple of financial issues as well off the field.
Were they not really close to administration when they won League Two?
Yeah.
There were certainly rumours. I don't know how factual they were though.
Yeah. But I think the massive loss has unfortunately a manager, Gary Naismith, who was obviously swooped up by Ayr, and he's also going to take that job. I don't think any Steny fan would begrudge him at taking that job, replaced by Marvin Bartley, which in my opinion is a bit of a downgrade. I think good coach, but I don't think he's I don't think he's a good manager necessarily, but at the same time, I think they do have that unknown kind of surprise element to them. Similarly to how Arbroath were a couple of seasons ago when they first came back up. They certainly surprised a lot of teams. It surprised me when they came up. Even I remember Alloa, who's as well. Kind of everybody picked them go down straight away, and they managed to stay up and kind of they stayed up for quite a few seasons as well. But I don't think I just looking at our squad now, I think they will struggle this season. I think it will be unfortunately down the bottom end of the table. But I would like them to stay up. But I think it'd be a good story kind of thing. So to speak, a good community club. who I've got get a decent bit of time for. So, aye, but I think unfortunately, I think it will be down the bottom end of that, down the bottom end of the table.
Yeah, I think it's just a general acceptance that they are just going to be the team they're just by far and away the smallest club in the division. The smallest that we've had for a good while. Maybe Dumbarton last time, but even then, is that they were able to stay up for
Dumbarton are a bigger
a
club
year.
than Stennis.
But but they're in that sort of bracket, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
but,
I get what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just they're not going to be like the next Brecon or whatever. Like God no, but yeah, like as you say, it's like depending on like what sort of fallout happens at Morton, that'll be the difference between 9th and 10th for them. I just don't see them being anywhere close to 8th or higher. If Gary Naismith had stayed, then there would have been like, okay, maybe there is like a 5% chance at most of them finishing 8th, but it's like without them, it's just like, nah, 9th is going to be the best you're going to hope for. And considering the strength of League One, like, if it's whoever finishes 9th goes down in the playoffs, but it's probably going to be Steny. Steny are going to be down either way, unfortunately for them.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that I think they'll definitely get relegated if they finish 9th. I just think they're going to. I think like just the longer the season goes on, if you're a part-time club, I think one of the big issues that Steny have is that if you're a part-time club and you're shopping for championship level players, why would those players not be at Arbroath instead? In a lot of ways, just in terms of Arbroath have more money. They have, I guess, geography might come into play a little bit, but it's not that far away either way. Like in terms of distance, getting from if you're choosing between one or the other. I just think it might be a step too far for them. Really, like clubs come up and do well quite often. Ourselves, Cove Rangers, whatever else. But those clubs have come up with a bit of funds that can kind of push them over and make them competitive at this level, at least initially. And I just think I don't know. As I say, I think it's a step too far for them. But I genuinely wish Steny all the best. I think they're a great club. I've got a lot of time for them, and I hope they do well. Not at our expense, but at the expense of some other clubs, I'd take it. I'd be happy. I'd be happy enough if it was at the expense of some other clubs, though.
It's absolutely like no bias whatsoever against Steny Osvira, but it's just a case of it's nice to have you here, but it's not going to last. But it's like with that, we have finally got through all of the teams. We are rivaling the terrace when it comes to this because I'm looking at the recording thing and it is at 2.5 hours. I did not expect this to happen. But with that, I suppose we will get our table predictions in. We're going to start from the same as last year. We're going to start at the bottom, work our way up, make our way around I was going to say the table, but the digital table that we have here. So I'll start off at bottom of the championship. I have gone with Greenock Morton. Kieran, who do you have?
At the bottom of the championship, I've got Stenhousemuir.
Enzo, have you gone with Steny or Morton?
I'm also going with Steny. I know that Morton are in a bad place, but I don't know, man. I think Steny are longer term going to struggle over the course of this season.
Yeah, it's pretty much between them two. 9th, I've got Steny. I'm just going to guess for both of you. You just both have got Morton in 9th, don't you?
Yes. Yeah, I've got Morton in 9th.
Yeah. There is no chance of it being anyone else with a bottom two at this point. 8th place, I have gone with Arbroath, but it's like as I've mentioned, it will be a case of they'll be 8th, but there'll be a possibly a 9-10 point gap between them and the bottom two at minimum. Kieran?
Yeah, in 8th, I've got Arbroath as well.
Enzo?
Bingo, I've got Arbroath as well in 8th.
Wow, we were so close to going 9 for 9 when it comes to these places. 7th place, I've gone with Inverness.
7th place, I've got Queen's Park.
7th place, I also have Inverness.
Sixth place, I've got Queen's Park.
Sixth, I've got Inverness.
Sixth, I've got Wraith Rovers. Now, I'm being very, very optimistic here, but I'm going with Wraith in sixth.
I've got Wraith in fifth.
I've got Ayr United in fifth.
I've got Queen's Park in fifth.
Yeah, I knew exactly what was coming up there. Fourth place, I've gone with Ayr United.
In fourth, I've got Wraith Rovers.
Thank you.
Fourth, I've also got Ayr United.
Kieran, I just want to thank you for having more optimism than me going into a Wraith Rovers season. Like, imagine saying that at some point, at any point. Third place, I have gone with Dunfermline.
Third place, I've got Dunfermline.
Third place, I also have Dunfermline.
I'm not shocked by that. Second place, Livingston.
Second place, I've also got Livingston.
Second place, I've got Partick Thistle.
Oh, Enzo, man, write it down.
We've done so well with the bingo here. But as you can probably guess, first place, I have gone with Partick Thistle.
In first place, I've got St Johnstone. Partick Thistle.
In the first place, I've got the weird and wonderful Livingston Football Club.
Yep, that's what we're just going to refer to them now for the rest of the season. The weird and wonderful Livingston. You know, it's like we've lost Scott Brown's Ayr United. We have gained weird and wonderful Livingston. But yes, after what is, if anyone is still listening or watching, thank you so much for making it this far, because it is beyond the 2.5 hours now. That has been our big championship preview. I'm glad we were able to give the Terrace a run for their money. Did you see that they're like SPFL lower leagues? 11 hours. 11 hours.
Yeah, but the championship was 5.5 hours of it, I think. So we're not really giving them a run for their money in the grand scheme of things.
Aye, but I mean, like, I don't think there's going to be many other podcasts that will have a championship preview.
No.
I think last year we were about an hour and a half, so the fact that we've gone an hour longer with one less person is impressive. But yes, that is it for the championship preview. We will be back next week in an actual studio and not a screen recorded Discord call. But yes, next week it's a first round of fixtures that we'll get to cover, and hopefully we will all be happy and smiling for it, because this is a championship and we don't get many opportunities for that.
Well, none of our teams are playing against each other, so it is technically possible.
Yeah, it is possible, but it's like, I just know like one of us is gonna fuck it. Like,
it won't.
I've got hospitality for Saturday because it's my birthday, so I cannot.
What have you?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So yeah, I can't wait for my birthday present to be Wraith Rovers 0, Stenhouse 3. So with that in mind,
happy birthday, Callum, enjoy.
Yes, that cheery image in mind. Thank you for making it this far, and we shall see you next week. Bye for now.
Catch you after.
Yeah.